coaching or working in the game in other ways. But what about the rest? Some former footballers turn their sights away from the game, and there are a few big surprises. First up, from rainbow flicks to pancake flips. Ex-Chelsea and Southampton defender Ken Monku switched up his footballing career to buy a Dutch pancake house. He bought out the shop, which had been his favourite pancake spot as a child, and before long he was mixing the batter and getting behind the stove. Next, Everton legend Thomas Gravesen swapped out the high stakes of the Premier League for those of the poker room. He made over 150 appearances for the Toffees and won the Scottish Premier League with Celtic. Turned out the Danish international was pretty darn good at poker. He racked up a reported £100 million from his Las Vegas adventures. Remember former Chelsea goalkeeper Petr Cech? Turns out football nets weren't the only goals he was pretty handy in front of. After retirement, he became a goaltender in ice hockey. Same skills, very different surface. And he even won a Division 2 title with Guildford Phoenix. For ex-Liverpool centre-back Daniel Agger, it wasn't just fancy footwork that was in his blood. He was also pretty good with his hands. The Denmark international turned to tattoo artistry after he hung up his boots. He'd qualified as a skin artist while at Anfield, and he then became the co-owner of his own tattoo company as well. It's not all glamour for ex-pros, though. 1966 World Cup winner Ray Wilson set up a very different kind of business. He became an undertaker after he retired. Finally, not many people can say they've won both a World Cup and starred in an Oscar-winning film. In fact, there's only one person in the entire world who can say that. Frank Leboeuf, the former Chelsea defender, was part of the 1998 France squad who won the World Cup. He ended up marking Brazil's Ronaldo in the final and helped his side to a 3-0 win. But Leboeuf had already begun acting on the side while he was playing football, and his biggest role came some years after his retirement when he landed the part of a doctor in the Stephen Hawking biopic The Theory of Everything.
I embrace the career of acting, so I want to learn more. So seeing lots of movies is a part of my job.
To be honest, with all the dramatic diving in the game these days, there's probably tons of ex-pros who've got the acting skills to make it in Hollywood.
Good evening, this is the Transfer Insiders with myself, Flex, and Rory Jennings. We're going to be with you up until 10 p.m. Coming up, the Alexander Isak story, it continues. The saga rolls on, but Newcastle United have made their stance clear. He is their player. That is their man. A blow for Arsenal, as Kai Havertz has been ruled out with a knee injury as well. What next for them? Where do they turn? What are the alternatives? Arsenal fans, what should they do? Who should they turn to? We'll also talk Manchester United as well, Chelsea and Nottingham Forest, who had a fantastic game against Brentford on Sunday as well. And they're about to add Douglas Luiz to their ranks as well. Of course, we'll have the latest of the transfers of the day as well. We want to hear from you. Text us on 81089, WhatsApp us or call us on 0371 22 3344. This is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. The Premier League season is back, Rory.
Finally.
It's finally back. We've had a look at all the teams, all 20 teams, game week 1. Were there any huge shocks in there? Probably not.
It was great. I
thought it was really entertaining, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a great opening weekend. It had a little bit of everything, and I mean the fact that Manchester City looks so good going forward, they just look like a team that a lot of people have underestimated. Yeah. Liverpool, although it didn't go all their own way, they looked enthralling at various points. Four goals, 4 different goal scorers. Salah doing what he does. It's impressive what's going on there. Obviously, Arsenal, I think, had a really impressive result. I feel like I'm the only person in the world that sees it through that lens, but I think Arsenal got the job done.
They got the job done. They've got 3 points.
They got the 3 points, and I don't understand what everybody was expecting. Going away to Old Trafford on the opening day of the season is tough. It's a kind of fixture that is a banana skin. It's the kind of fixture that you could always lose. Manchester United felt a bit resurgent. They had a good pre-season. I think they were unbeaten in pre-season.
Yep.
They played very well. They brought in some exciting signings, and there's no doubt that Arsenal could have gone there and got beat. We've seen Arsenal go to Old Trafford many times dictate the tempo, have the bulk of possession and lose. Instead of that, they went there and they won in a way that only really they can. Defensive stubbornness,
this new version of Arsenal.
Yeah, hateful, horrible, and ugly wins are how you win titles.
Yeah, actually, and Mikel Arteta was drawing statement to that, actually, sort of saying this is what champions do.
The three at the top did what they should do, and then I think the jewel in the crown of the Premier League was actually what happened to the two promoted teams. I thought it was a joy to see Sunderland do what they did. Swashbuckling, destroy West Ham, batter Potter.
West Ham in trouble?
Yeah, hopefully.
You've been...
but yeah, probably, and hopefully. but I meant to say probably there, and it slipped out.
Yeah, exactly. You will know what Rory's about, guys.
But yeah, I think they could be. And then obviously Leeds getting a win. I think that those two promoted teams already showed up the teams that got promoted last year. They've already shown them.
And Burnley, it was kind of what to be expected. First game, very tough against Spurs, but also, less likely for them. It's going to be tough. But listen, we've got to start with what everybody has been talking about today. The saga that just won't come to an end. And really, let's be honest, it just continues to grow and look even more toxic. And that is, if you don't know what I'm talking about, that is Alexander Isak and Newcastle United. I'm going to read out the statement in case you're not familiar with what has happened, because last night, around about this time probably, Alexander Isak was obviously announced that he was in the PFA Team of the Year, but he took that opportunity to make a public statement to say that obviously he was happy to be in the team, but really to open up our eyes and ears to even more. And he said, "I've kept quiet for a long time while others have spoken. That silence has allowed people to push their own version of events, even though they know it doesn't reflect what was really said and agreed behind closed doors. The reality is that promises were made, and the club has known my position for a long time. To now act as if these issues are only emerging is misleading. And when promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship can't continue. That's where things are for me right now, and why change is in the best interest of everyone, not just myself." And that was quickly backed up with a statement from Newcastle United, because they went, right, we're not having this. We're going to have our say as well, as you should, as the club, because the player's gone so public. It needed this sort of clarity and intent from the club. And they said the following: "We are clear in response that Alex remains under contract, and that no commitment has ever been made by a club official that Alex can leave Newcastle United this summer. We want to keep our best players, but we also understand players have their own wishes, and we listen to their views. As explained to Alex and his representatives, we must always take into consideration the best interests of Newcastle United, the team, and our supporters in all decisions, and we have been clear that the conditions of a sale this summer have not transpired. We do not foresee these conditions being met. This is a proud football club with proud traditions. We strive to retain our family feel. Alex remains part of our family and will be welcomed back when he is ready to rejoin his teammates." I mean, unpack that, Rory, because Alexander Isak has gone on the offensive. It's the first time we've actually heard from him. We've always heard from journalists and, well-sourced people that he's on strike, he's not coming back. It's the first time we've heard from him. Is he right for doing that? Is he right to try to put his side forward? He said too many people have been speaking. I haven't had the chance to talk.
Yeah, I think he's right. I think he's right to have his say. I think that people want to hear from him, whether they agree with what he says or whether they want to hear the words that he says are different. But I think people want to hear his opinion. I most certainly do. What I think is the most striking thing of all of this is he's come out and he said that the promises have been broken and trust has gone and the relationship is effectively over. He said that it's over for everyone. He said that the fact that it's over is in the best interest of everyone. Now, Newcastle have put out their version and have put out a sort of counter statement. When this kind of thing happens and you've got a club arguing publicly with their prized asset player, isn't the whole thing just totally unedifying? The whole thing is totally unsalvageable.
Well, you think so as well, and it starts off as sort of like this, this soap opera where as neutrals, like, oh, what's going to happen there? And it goes on and on and on. And even like as a neutral, I'm like, this kind of needs a resolution.
It's over.
Is it over though?
It's over. It has to be over. I think any
over how? Over as in he can never play for them again, or over as in, mate, go back to work because you're not leaving.
I don't see how he can actually play. And I think that, when you hear comparisons and you think about other examples where these kind of issues have arisen, but then the player kind of hangs around. So Wayne Rooney, for example, was linked with Manchester City, but he never stopped playing and playing well for Manchester United. Steven Gerrard obviously put a transfer request in at Liverpool, tried to sign for Chelsea, was on the precipice at least of signing for Chelsea, but he's still Liverpool's best player every single week, regardless. So I think that these examples that have happened in the past, they're completely different to this. Alexander Isak when he was apparently injured, wasn't even having his rehab at his club. He was back at his old club in Sociedad. He has effectively gone on strike. He's got the Newcastle fans calling him all sorts as he's trying to go into training, and he has come out publicly, and he's not softening it. He's not apologising.
No, he's standing on business. He's saying this is what it is. I was told this.
I'm not playing for you again. I was told I could leave.
I think one of the biggest problems what we're seeing is this whole gentleman's agreement rubbish. Like they say in business, like if it's not written down, it didn't happen. And somebody could have said to him in the corridor, someone could have said to him in that event, and it might be people who aren't at the club anymore. And he's going. It was the same with Victor Gyökeres on the way into Arsenal. Well, I was told I could leave for this gentleman's agreement. This is football. Like this is football. If like Danny Murphy said today, I saw Danny Murphy sort of say on White and Jordan. He was saying a good agent doesn't let this happen. A good agent doesn't act off hearsay. A good agent doesn't say, "I'll tell you what, Alex, we'll get our move at the end of the season because they said." That's not how it works.
No, that's not how it works. But what I would say is when you're at a club and things are going well and everything's moving in the right direction and you're winning silverware, and you have a conversation with what is a friend, a business relationship, but a friend, and the friend says, look, you will go. If the right bid comes in at the right time from the right club, we will let you go. You take that as gospel. You take it. Look, maybe it's naive too.
It is, though, in the world of football.
It is naive too. But, with regards to Alexander Isak, the way that he's conducted himself here, agitating for a move, people are being very snide towards him, I think. To be totally frank, Flex, I feel like he's sort of doing the right thing, even if he's going about it the wrong way. He is a professional footballer who wants to compete against the very best. He's a professional footballer who wants
Eberechi Eze. Eze wants to do that. He's gonna play in the Conference League coming up. He's just played against Chelsea. They're separate
examples. I think with regard to Alexander Isak,
why? They both won silverware.
Alexander Isak is desperate to get out of Liverpool, and the way that he has decided that he has to get out is to force the move.
Eze wants to go to Spurs. He's agreed personal terms with Spurs. He's still playing football.
It feels like Tottenham are ready to provide the right funds, and it feels like Crystal Palace are ready to sell the player at Newcastle. And this is partly Newcastle's fault, though. Part of the reason that Alexander Isak is not a Liverpool player already is Newcastle's fault.
Why? Because they didn't get Ekitike.
Because they didn't get Ekitike.
Yeah, because they didn't get Ekitike because
they didn't get
dominoes didn't fall.
Because they didn't get Sesko. Because they didn't get Delap. Because they didn't get João Pedro.
But can
they
let Alexander? You just spoke about all the players they don't have. They still can't even get Johan Visser out of Brentford. We'll talk about that in the show.
No, but
can they afford to let Alexander Isak go without a replacement?
If
you're not going, mate, we can't replace you.
Is this not a fair way to rationalise it, though, Flex? If Benjamin Sesko had chosen to go to Newcastle rather than Manchester United, Alexander Isak would already be a Liverpool player.
Yes.
So Alexander Isak, he is for sale. Yeah. They're saying he's not for sale. He is for sale. The reason that he's not allowed to go is because Newcastle haven't done their job in replacing him.
And also, they haven't received a fee of what they believe. Because the report's saying they've turned down 120 million bid. Now, they might have turned that down just because, I don't know, like you said, they haven't got targets. Yeah. But also, that might not be their valuation. What if their valuation is 150 million quid? He signed a 6-year deal. As soon as you put pen to paper on a 6-year deal, and I'm with you on this, because what we do as fans is we don't always think of the player side of things. Also, when a player, look at Manchester United. Man United don't want Rasmus Hojlund anymore. Hasn't done anything. You're not in the squad, mate. Yeah. Sorry. See you later. So it works that way round. But when it's the player who wants to leave,
and with somebody like Harry Kane. Harry Kane, in a similar situation, he had his agent as his brother. And ultimately, he ended up a prisoner at Tottenham, and he stayed at Tottenham far too long. If he'd left Tottenham when he should have left Tottenham, I think he would have won a Ballon d'Or by now. I think he would have had that season that Haaland had. I think he would have won a treble and probably...
And he was on a golf course with Gary Neville discussing his 100 billion price tag.
Exactly. But we're not kind to Kane. Kane didn't agitate for a move in the way that he should have done. And we kind of hold that against him. We're like, the best players in the world, get out of...
But you're a man of standard. But I know you. You're a man of... You're a man of standard sometimes. Like you, but isn't
you have standards sometimes?
But hold on, isn't it not? Because we're gonna break it in a minute. But is it not? What isn't it worth? I know you. Isn't it worth something like?
What you saying? The principle.
The right way to conduct yourself when you want to get out. The right way to do something.
You
wouldn't just not turn up here if you wanted to.
He can't waste his career at Newcastle.
I understand
he can't do that. He has to go to join the Liverpool. Currently, the most exciting sporting project in world football. He has the opportunity to join them. It would be insane for him to not take that opportunity.
There's a way to do it. Newcastle fans, we want to hear from you. What do me and Rory know? We don't support Manchester United. We don't. I do. He doesn't. We don't support Newcastle United. We want to hear from you guys about this on the terraces. Would you accept Alexander Isak back and cheer his name if he stays? 03717 22 33 44. You listen to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes, 18+, gambleware.org. We'll take your calls next. You're listening to the Transfer Insiders with myself, Flex, and Rory Jennings. We're going to be with you up until 10 p.m. Loads to get into, including carrying on talking about Alexander Isak. We're going to hear from Newcastle United fans on that. We're going to be talking Chelsea, Manchester United, and so much more. Of course, your latest transfer news. But before that, it's time to get some team news around for a lot of games going on tonight. Champions League qualifiers, Celtic versus Kyra, and that is with David Tanner.
And Celtic are at full strength after resting 6 key men in the Scottish League Cup on Friday. Brendan Rodgers returns to his strongest 11. Back come goalkeeper Kasper Schmeichel, centre-backs Cameron Carter-Vickers and Liam Scales, midfielders Benjamin Nygren and Rigo Hatate, along with centre-forward Adam Ida, who gets the nod. Amongst the 6 dropping out is record signing Arne Engels. Celtic reached the knockout stage of the Champions League last season, where they lost narrowly to Bayern Munich. Tonight's opponents, the champions of Kazakhstan, have never made it to the group stage of the Champions League. It's Celtic against Kairat Almaty, kick-off at 8.
Thank you, David. Obviously, Celtic looking to do a lot better than Rangers did yesterday. Another game going on tonight, Bolton versus Reading, live on talkSPORT 2 with Cameron Pope.
Two teams who challenged for the League One playoffs last season meet as Bolton welcome Reading. The hosts have won just one of 3 league games so far, while the visitors are still without a point. Plenty of changes since the weekend for both. Bolton make 4 and Reading 5. For the home side, Chris Marino, Jordi Osei-Tutu and Ethan Irahan come in, with new arrival Ibrahim Sissoko making his first league start. Their summer signing from Wrexham, striker Sam Dolby, is fit now after a pre-season injury and makes the bench for the first time. Reading give Derek Williams his first start after a return from MLS, with Brighton loanees Marco Mani and Kamari Doyle also among those coming in. Both sides in need of a win. Commentary on talkSPORT 2 from 8 o'clock. Bolton versus Reading.
That is your latest team news from tonight. But for us, time now to get the very latest odds update with Ladbrokes.
Odds update on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. You build it, we give you a totally free bet this week and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
Huge good evening to Chris Wood from Ladbrokes. Thanks for talking to us, Chris. We've got Celtic versus Kairat this evening. How's that looking?
Yeah, hi guys, how you doing? Yeah, Celtic are really, really strong fabs there. They're 1-8 to win that game, and better Rangers result last night. Yeah. 8-1 for the draw, and Kairat at 20-1 to win tonight as well. Celtic, they'll be hoping to make a pretty fast start. You can back them to be ahead after 15 minutes at 2-1, and you can back them to win by 4 or more goals and pretty much put the tie to bed at 21-10. Interesting team news, they have gone very strong. Adam Ida, he's going to lead the line up front. He's 7-2 to score the first goal, 9-2 to score 2 or more. And Daizan Maeda, who was obviously the main man for them last year, he's only scored once so far this season, but we've seen a bit of money. We've had to shorten him up from 5-1 to 4-1 to score the first goal, and he's 8-1 to score 2 or more tonight.
Should be a formality, shouldn't it? I mean, Rangers with a tough game against Club Bridge, it's not going to be anything like that. That should be a Celtic win all over that. Okay, Bolton versus Reading tonight. That's live on talkSPORT 2 as well. What are we looking at that?
Yeah, Bolton, they've been well backed all day. They've come into 8-15 from 8-13 earlier. The draws in at 7-2 and Reading at 9-2. Actually, really fancied Reading at the start of the season, but they've had a few of their sort of bigger signings out. Paul O'Connor's a big miss for them. Bolton look really exciting on paper. Mario Kosia-Dubry, he's a player that I really like. He's 7-1 to score the first goal, and 18-5 to have an assist. And Ibrahim Sissoko was on loan at my team, Plymouth Argyle, last season. He's really, really exciting when he's in the mood. He's not always in the mood, but I mean, with him on one wing, yeah, absolutely. But hey, with him on one wing, Kosia-Dubry on the other side, I mean, they could be really exciting. He's 7-1 to score the first goal, 23-10 to score any time, and 9-2 to have an assist.
Good stuff, Chris. And League 1 and 2 outrights.
Yeah, League 1 outright. It's still very, very open. Luton are, still favourites there at 11-4. Huddersfield in at 7-2, and Cardiff 13-2. Stockport had a really good start. They're 13-2. Bolton, who obviously playing tonight, they're 9-1 with a win tonight, and like a good win tonight. I think we'll have to chop them in a bit, and we'll see a bit of money. Stevenage, the early pace setters, they're in at 20-1. We have seen a bit of money for them, so we've had to shorten them up. In League 2, as you'd expect, MK Dons are still fabs there. They're 9-4. Chesterfield had looked really strong until last night. It's a horrible result against Gillingham. They're 7-2. Grimsby have started very well indeed. They're 9-1, and Crewe, they've been the team that we've seen a bit of money for them today. They're 14-1, and they have started really well. I think they've had a few false dawns, but they could actually do the business this season.
Chris, pleasure, mate. Thank you very much for bringing us the very latest odds. That was the look at the latest odds with Ladbrokes. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
Odds update on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. You build it, we give you a totally free bet this week and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
Like we've been saying, guys, we do want to hear from you on the phone lines about this Alexander Isak saga. Of course, we want to hear from Newcastle United fans, we want to hear from Liverpool fans and fans from all over about this. And on the call line, we've got Paul, the Liverpool fan, straight away. What do you want to say, Paul?
Hi there, how are you?
We're good, thanks, mate. Really good.
Yeah, I just wanted to make the point that Newcastle have sort of broken Isak's trust, not necessarily by not letting him go, but by refusing to pay him. He's the only player in the Newcastle team in the Premier League Team of the Year, and he's
refusing to pay him. Wait, I'm not sure I've heard that.
He's paid the same as Kieran Trippier. Yeah, he's paid the same as Kieran Trippier. Yeah. Which if I were Isak,
so he's not. So hang on a minute. Are you saying he's not been paid, or are you saying he's just on one of the other top earners is on in Kieran Trippier?
I'm saying he's not been paid what he's worth. They're trying to get 150 million for him.
I don't know
but
about that.
He's not being paid what a striker in his position deserves. I mean, they can't possibly intend to pay him the same.
But that's not.
At the end of his 6-year contract.
I don't think that's what he's angling for, though. He's not angling for more money from Newcastle. I'm sure Newcastle would consider renegotiating.
He wants to leave.
I think they would now, but I think they didn't, and that's what's broken his trust.
You know when you made the parallel with Kieran Trippier. Kieran Trippier was at the peak of his powers when he signed his contract. You know, he was England's fullback at the Euros last year.
Captain most days.
He was England's fullback that reached a final in Germany a year ago. And when Alexander Isak signed his contract, he was more in his formative years. So he was one of the high earners at the club, one of the higher earners at the club.
I totally understand that. I think he's never scored 25 goals, but Kieran Trippier's never scored 25 goals.
Well, he's a right back, so it's probably a bit difficult.
No, but so he should be paid like a right back, and he should be paid like a centre forward.
I think you're being harsh here,
I
Paul.
think the idea that you finish up being paid by an employer after 6 successful years, the same as you were day one, which is what he was essentially told. We're not paying you any more money because you're on contract. I don't think that's a good way to treat a high-class athlete.
I think Newcastle fans. Thank you for getting in touch. But I think Newcastle United fans will also think it's not a good way to be treated. To just not turn up to work when they give him 120 grand a week and he signed a 6-year deal, and they've put trust in him from buying him from Real Sociedad for the best part of 60 million quid, and help him develop into the player that he is now. And he's gone on to achieve great things. At Newcastle United, firing him into the Champions League for a couple of times. He's been part of them winning their first trophy in 70 years, I think it was. 70 years. Scored in the final of that. And is, commanding a hefty fee. Now, listen, I don't agree with the way he's going about it, but I think that was a bit of a stretch there from Paul.
Yeah, I don't think that the motivation from Alexander Isak is money. I think the reason that he wants to leave, the reason why he's so desperate to sign for Liverpool is because of what Liverpool offer.
So the best.
Yeah, he wants to do it. He's the best striker in the league and he plays for the 5th best team in the country. He's the best striker in the league and he's playing for a team that have won one league title in 100 years. It's a natural progression. There is a food chain. Newcastle have their place in the food chain and they're demonstrating their power over Brentford, but Liverpool are demonstrating their power over Newcastle. This is just the way things operate.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really difficult with this whole Isak situation. It really, really is. And don't forget, Newcastle United versus Liverpool is actually live on talkSPORT this Monday night. This is the Transfer Insiders here on talkSPORT. Next up, we'll turn our attention to the mighty Manchester United and if they will make any more moves this transfer window.
Football fans all have stadiums we love, but do any of us have a pitch we love? It might sound like an odd question, but pitches can be different sizes with big consequences. Why is that? And what are the actual rules behind it? Back when association football started, pitches could be 100 metres wide and 200 metres long. That's longer than Ellen Road. Not the pitch, the stadium. Anyway, UEFA wanted a standard across Europe, which became 105 metres long and 68 metres wide. But some clubs have been rebels, not intentionally, but because of the stadiums. Take Highbury, for example. It was 5 metres shorter and a metre narrower, meaning away sides had a challenge just to adjust. Today, Forest pitch at the City Ground is a big one, 2 metres wider than others. But the smallest of all? Craven Cottage, just 100 metres long and 65 metres wide. There are a couple of crazy outliers in Europe too, such as Napoli's home ground, the Stadio Diego Armando Maradona, where the pitch is a whopping 110 metres long. So UEFA have their standards, so do the FA, but they give pitches in England some wiggle room. Pitches can be anywhere between 90 and 120 metres long, between 45 and 90 metres wide. Just imagine a pitch that's 120 metres long and 45 wide. Madness. So there you have it. There is a standard size and most teams do generally follow it. But as we all know, size doesn't matter, does it?
That's right. This is the Transfer Insiders. Myself, Flex and Rory. We are with you up until 10 p.m. before we hand over to the guys at the sports bar. Time now to turn our attentions to my team. Yes, my team, Manchester United. And the positives, because I'm fed up of people telling me, and us United fans, that, you know, we're deluded for being positive with what we saw. Remember that you lost. Remember you got no points. Remember that, you know, it's another home defeat. You finished 15th, blah, 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 against Arsenal. Let's open up the floor, Rory, because it's like, here's one thing. If Manchester United would have won that game against Arsenal, right, in the way that they did, right, with a goalkeeping error, but played terribly, right, the narrative from outside the United fan base would be told, why are you getting excited for? Didn't you see that Raya just threw the ball in the net?
Do you know what you're demonstrating here?
That's what they would say.
You're demonstrating that weird football bias lunacy.
What? How?
Can't even see. You're rationalising things that don't need to be rationalised.
What do you mean?
It's not. There's some
weird
positives. Equivalence. You went. I'll tell you what. If Manchester United had won like that, this is what would happen. That isn't what would have happened. If you beat Arsenal on the opening day of the season, people would be saying it was a huge result. People wouldn't be saying it was lucky. People would be saying it was a massive 3 points.
No, they would, Rory. They would.
They wouldn't.
If we performed I'll tell you why, because you know why? When Manchester United opened up against the likes of Fulham and Wolves in the last couple of seasons, but we were terrible, we were awful, right, and nicked it, and we're saying, I'll tell you what, win's a win though, first game of the season. We're saying, that's rubbish.
Yeah,
you're lucky.
That's against Fulham and Wolverhampton Wanderers when you
right.
were very
so we're playing against Arsenal, and we actually put in a good performance, and nobody expected that we would.
Yeah, but you got beating Arsenal is obviously far more significant than beating Wolves.
Of course, but what I'm saying is that you can still take positives from a performance, even if you didn't get the result. What are we doing?
I don't think that you should be overly negative losing to Arsenal. Arsenal are a better team than you. They're further in their evolution than you. Player for player, they're far better than you. And yeah, there are positives. I thought that your front three in particular looked very good. There's no doubt that there's positives to take. But I would say that people have been quite snide about Arsenal. People are saying that Arsenal didn't really deserve it. Arsenal didn't play very well. And I think that is utterly irrelevant. They went to Old Trafford. They went to a sort of resurgent Manchester United. They got a massive 3 points, and they did it in a way that is sort of perfect to them. Yeah. They did it by scoring a set piece, and then they did it by defending better than anyone else can in the league. This time last year, when they
got the best defence in the league.
Well, they conceded less goals in last campaign than Liverpool.
No, I just think in general they got the best.
And I think overall Arsenal should be really happy, but I think people have been very snide towards them. I don't think people have been saying.
I'll be honest with you, haven't really cared about them, to be honest, because I've just been taking look at you, delude. Why are you trying to take some positives from that? Because you lost. Well, mate. Last time I checked, if you finish 15th and you're an awful football team, you don't just get better instantly. You've got to take positives along the way. You don't win.
And Burmo was brilliant. He was one of the best players on the pitch.
And so was Cunha.
Yeah, Cunha was very good. I thought Mason Mount did well. And then I think that Mbeumo shone, like really shone. The only player better than him, I think, was probably Gabriel, which is a statement of the story. You know, that kind of tells you what happened. Yeah. The Arsenal centre-half was the best player on the pitch, and therefore they won 1-0.
What I do know is, though, this is the Transfer Insider, so we've got to talk about transfers, of course. We need a goalkeeper. We've needed a goalkeeper all summer. The club have... Listen, I'm not going to moan about the transfer window so far because up until this point, I think it's been really good. Cunha and Mbeumo and Benjamin Sesko through the door from finishing 15th and losing the Europa League final is not bad business, right? And we could see the improvement at the top end of the pitch as a result of that. We can also see where we still need to strengthen, and that is in midfield. Obviously, we've tried to have a pursuit of Carlos Baleba that hasn't been fortuitous. But the goalkeeping issue is a massive one for Manchester United. Onana didn't play all the way through pre-season, so was never going to play that game, but not good enough.
Yeah, but the problem is...
And Altay Bayindir is not good enough.
Bayindir is not good enough. The last time Bayindir played for Manchester United at Old Trafford, he did his best to gift Aston Villa the opportunity of playing in the Champions League. Like, he's clearly not good enough either.
But last time he played against Arsenal was really good.
And he was so flimsy in the goal. That was the crucial bit for me.
And he's massive.
It was the most delicate approach to goalkeeping. Like, what does Edwin van der Sar do in that situation? What does Peter Schmeichel do in that situation? Yeah. Like, everybody goes flying and the ball ends up on the halfway line. Bayindir comes out with this tippy-tappy, delicate approach. Like,
and they were asking for the
really
foul.
Flimsy.
It was literally flimsy's the perfect word.
But you've been in need of a goalkeeper for a long time now.
100%.
And ultimately, I feel like there's a ceiling that you can only... There's a very low ceiling that you can reach if Onana is your number one goalkeeper.
But do you know what else I'm not having as well? You know, like the right one's not out there and stuff. Listen, I saw Kepa sitting on that bench yesterday for 4 million quid, 5 million quid that they got from Bournemouth. You know, people may say Aaron Ramsdale's not the one, etc., etc. But again, he's better than those two. There's options out there. There's options. Look at the keeper. I can't remember his name. The keeper who deputised for Aston Villa because Emi Martinez wasn't there. Can't remember his name, but I think they picked him up from Bundesliga. Like, there's keepers out there that can get you by.
Manchester United obviously need to sign a goalkeeper. I think the worst thing that Erik ten Hag did at that club, and there were a lot of bad things, but the worst gift that he bestowed upon Manchester United was Andre Onana as a very expensive number one.
Yeah,
or
David De Gea as well.
Yeah, it's a real problem, but I do think that it's one that should be rectified. But you are correct. Overall, it was a good day at the office for Manchester United. There was a huge amount of improvement, and with a few tweaks here and there, you saw something out in midfield. If the manager can either manage his way out of the situation and maybe redefine a player in the way that Arne Slot did to Gravenberch last year, he elevated the Liverpool midfield without spending any money. He just did it with his managerial skills, and he turned Ryan Gravenberch into the player that he needed.
Can't do that with Garcia.
If Ruben Amorim can use his squad maybe to redefine a player and make the solution within the squad, if not, maybe they have to sign someone. But I do believe that the keeper is such a problem.
The keeper's a big problem. I think in midfield, although it wasn't ever present against Arsenal because of just the manner in which we played the game, we sort of went direct, we sort of went long, we had runners, we sort of bypassed the midfield, to be fair. And then when we had Cunha drop in deep, he sort of powered through midfield. But that's not how it's going to be week in, week out for us. I think Casemiro did okay against Arsenal, but we all know that's not where our bread's going to be buttered. A lot of Man United fans are talking about the fact that Kobbie Mainoo didn't get any minutes against Arsenal and he was overlooked for Manuel Ugarte, who came on and had a stinker, by the way. And for me, I'm kind of mixed on this because, listen, he's 20 years of age and he actually hasn't had a full season of playing. And I think what's actually counting against him was the meteoric rise in his first season. He was injured till about October, November, made his debut against Everton, and then that was it. Went from then all the way to the Euros final, won the FA Cup final, scored a goal. Like, incredible. And then the second season, injured, manager changed, system changed. So he's finding himself a little bit out of sorts. What Man United fans, or some Man United fans are saying, I wouldn't mind hearing from a few tonight, is that this manager's got us 15th. You know, he's terrible. One of our, brightest stars for the future in Kobbie Mainoo, who's out of the star boy, getting overlooked because he doesn't fit this system. And you're playing Ugarte over him. What does that look like?
It is a problem. It is a problem when your system dictates everything. You know, when you're that dogmatic to a system, that there's no pragmatism. Yeah. Like, you have a player like Kobbie Mainoo, and Kobbie Mainoo is a masterful footballer who could obviously contribute to the Manchester United midfield. He's a far superior midfielder to Manuel Ugarte. Manuel Ugarte landed at Manchester United made no sense at the time. Paris Saint-Germain, Luis Enrique decided that he wasn't good enough to be part of their team. They went on to win a European Cup. So they realised that there was a limitation.
And when you see Vitinha and Fabian Ruiz, and you go, I see why.
What I would also say is this is a Ruben Amorim problem, because Kobbie Mainoo should be featuring, and the system should be malleable enough to make that work. And this ridiculous, I don't understand why we talk about the system as if it is this sort of God-given right that he has to play.
Yeah, he won't move from it.
I know that he won't, but I feel like what he needs to do is accommodate the best players in the squad.
But then the flip side of this argument is this, Rory, and that some other United fans, I give you both sides, are saying, listen, kid's 20. We do this all the time at Man United, actually. He has to play now. He has to be the main guy. Let him learn. Let him grow into the position. Let him understand this new look. And actually, when you're just the manager, let's just have it right. He's changed the 2-10s, right? Because he's basically said last year that Kobbie Mainoo is better further forward. You brought in Cunha and Mbeumo. He ain't getting ahead of them. Bruno's not even getting ahead of them in that position. So now you're looking at 2 6 positions or 2 central midfield positions, and he doesn't feel like Kobbie can handle with the demands of that. It's game week 1, but if the team becomes better,
Kobbie Mainoo. This is interesting because I think that when
physicality, movement,
he does have physicality. He does have legs.
Yeah.
He certainly has better legs than Casemiro.
Yeah,
he's certainly more mobile than Ugarte. He's certainly a better.
I don't know if he's in terms of more. Ugarte can run. That's one thing he can do is just run about. He can get about. Not much quality, but he can get about. But I do agree that the manager's thinking too, like you said, like too dogmatic in terms of he just won't be able to do that. I think if the team's playing in a certain way, you give Kobbie Mainoo a little bit of luxury and a little bit of time, he can grow into that. But actually, that still might be the case. So a lot of United fans are saying, listen, he's 20. It's fine. He's going to play games. We've got Fulham next. Let's see. Let's have a look. All right, it was Arsenal. We didn't trust him. It's not a great look. But my worry is just overall is that he has got 3 years left in the contract, so that's fine. But he won't play this year. He ain't going to get on a plane to the States and to the World Cup. And then he's thinking, where do I fit? Now, the only way Ruben Amorim can justify that is if Man United are doing what they're supposed to do and they're improving, if they're winning games. Because I do agree, it shouldn't just be about one player. It's about the team. And if the team functions better with the players that we have, instead of Kobbie Mainoo, I want him to, like if it's one of your own coming through Cobham, I want that story. Oh my God, he's already tasted a little bit of that. So I want him to kick on. But right now, we're such a bad team, I need us to be a good football team. And I'm not really.
Also, do you know what he is? He feels like a good Manchester United player. He feels like an honourable Manchester United player.
Excellent.
And you know that bomb squad. Like Jadon Sancho in the headlines again today.
Yes.
I feel like Manchester United at this point, they need players who understand what the standards of Manchester United.
That's why he's in the squad. That's why he's still there. He's still there.
It would be a disaster for Manchester United for Kobbie Mainoo to leave simply because this manager's system is the be all and end all.
And that is what I mean. Exactly that. If it's just because Ruben Amorim played the wrong system at the wrong time for the wrong player, it meant he went, I'm going Chelsea. Yeah. They sold Enzo Fernandez, we got him.
It would be a disaster. You're lumbered with Sancho and Garnacho and you get rid of Kobbie Mainoo. It'd be a complete and utter disaster.
Speaking of Alejandro Garnacho,
yeah,
he's going to become your player. You do understand that, don't you?
Well, I did believe you. I did think that there was a world where he was going to become a Chelsea player, but the fact that he's rumbling on and on and on...
No.
Think that there's a world where the sporting directors at Chelsea are thinking better of this?
Rory, he's going to be your player.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. But he isn't yet, and that must surprise you even.
No, not really, because you're going to... I've heard, right, because we need to sell players, and you're right to talk about the players who aren't part of it anymore. Rashford's gone, and the rest are still there, which is a big problem for Man United. So I bring up Alejandro Garnacho because he looks like he's the closest to leaving at the minute to go to Chelsea. I've heard, or I've seen, or read, should I say, reports that your club, want to offer my club like 20, 25 million. Yeah. I'm telling you now, if that bid comes in via fax,
I don't know how to accept it.
You put the phone down, you cease all communication, and you say to Alejandro Garnacho, you're in the under-18 squad and you're playing with Kai Rooney. That's what you're doing.
I think
that's what you're doing. There's no way we're accepting that. We're going to talk about this more. Right, you're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes, 18+, begambleaware.org. Next up, we'll focus on Arsenal and where do they go next after this injury to Kai Havertz. This is the Transfer Insiders with myself, Flex, and Rory Jennings. This Saturday, live only on DAZN, unbeaten Jack Rafferty defends his British and Commonwealth titles against the dangerous southpaw Mark Chamberlain in a domestic showdown. Sign up now at DAZN.com/boxing.
Boxing update on talkSPORT with DAZN, the global home of boxing. Buy now at DAZN.com/boxing.
This is what we love here on the Transfer Insiders, and that's breaking news. We love when there's breaking news. There's fresh stuff to talk about, and it concerns Arsenal. And the Athletic's David Ornstein is reporting that Arsenal make a move for Eberechi Eze, and the 27-year-old wants to join them. Tottenham lined up a deal with Palace today, but after Havertz's injury, Arsenal are now closing in on the England international if he proceeds with the choice. Tottenham will pursue other targets. We've got to get Luke Henry in, Arsenal fan and broadcaster here at talkSPORT. He's grinning like the deal's already done. We spoke about this before, only a couple of hours ago, with him looking like he was going to Tottenham. I was sort of talking about where would Eze fit, how does it look? Arsenal fans have been screaming out for Eze. Firstly, how excited are you to see this, and how do you think this is going to transpire? What's happening here?
Well, I've always been quite consistent in my thoughts on Eberechi Eze as a football player. I think he's a wonderful talent. I think he's perfect to play in the number 10 role, and I understand that Arsenal fans have always been a little bit confused if he was the right fit to play as the left winger. However, following the news of Kai Havertz's injury, I think that opens up a role as a more central option, and that's why I think Eze is the fit for Arsenal. You have to look at it. I don't think... Well, got to talk about Mikel Arteta and his love for Kai Havertz. And Kai Havertz for Arsenal fans is a very fundamental part of what we're trying to do. I look at the window, I look at the market right now, not sure there's a realistic option for Arsenal to find anyone similar to that. We've seen Mikel Merino do a job at the back end of last season, led the line in the Champions League quarter-finals against Real Madrid, so we know he can do a job. Now, 24 hours ago, I'm pretty sure Arsenal fans were very emotional when they found out the news about Leandro Trossard and that new contract, getting more money for a player that we thought we were open to letting go. Now, I think we now know that the reason why we probably gave him more money and kept the same contract is because he's going to have more of a role to play following the injury to Kai Havertz. So I think we understand why the club have done that. So then you're looking at it. What do? Do you look at it and go, do we try and get that left winger? Or, after watching the game against Manchester United on Sunday, I thought we lacked a little bit of running power from the attacking sense in midfield. Not necessarily from the wingers, actually, because I thought Martinelli and Saka both struggled. So I was looking at Matheus Cunha and I was thinking, we don't really have that in the team. And I think there's still a real over-reliance on Martin Odegaard. And I think with the addition of Eberechi Eze, that can really come in and complement them in different times. And Arsenal's struggle has always been trying to break down a low block and a mid block. And I think with a player like Eze, who can play off the left, who's a different option, can glide in, I think it's a very sold. They're sold.
They're sold.
I've always been consistent like that.
You have
number 10 perfect.
Yeah, there's no two ways about it. Eberechi Eze is one of the best players at what he does in the league. I think Eberechi Eze in full flow is one of the most dazzling sights in Premier League football. He's one of my favourite players to watch. I think he's a glorious player, and obviously for him to now go to Arsenal is massive. I just don't really. The thing that doesn't make sense to me isn't the fact that they're going for him now. It's why they didn't go for him before. They clearly needed him. He clearly was a needle mover. He clearly was needed, whether Kai Havertz gets injured or not. Arsenal were lacking creativity and spark and unpredictability. So it is the perfect signing. And I guess it's that bit sweeter, Luke, because you've got one over on Tottenham.
Yeah, absolutely. And touching on that point, I think that is the word about the optics, hasn't it? And I think that's the word I've been using all transfer window, and probably the word I'll use throughout, the rest of the season in terms of the optics and how did it look. And I think various reports have confused Arsenal fans, like Rory just said then. We wanted him. It looked like it was our first choice. It was going to be separate to a winger and a striker. So then when we got Victor Gyökeres over the line and then we got Noni Madueke, Arsenal fans were still expecting Eberechi Eze, but that's when the confusion came in as, well, where do we see him? Is he the left winger? Is he an additional 10? But then Ethan Nwaneri signed the contract. So then we were told then that because Ethan Nwaneri signed the contract, Arsenal don't feel like they need another 10. So they're looking for a left winger. So I think Arsenal fans were just reading too much and maybe got a bit caught up in the emotion and were slightly confused by it. But I think, look, like I said, Kai Havertz is a big injury miss. This is a very, very, very good deal. I think he's the player that could really help us.
The only thing I'm thinking of, and I'm not trying to have a negative on this signing, because I do share what Rory said. I love Eberechi Eze, and I can see why maybe Arsenal want him, right? And he's a top player. But I'm just looking at the construct of Arteta's Arsenal and the build-up of Arteta's Arsenal, because it's easy to just go, it's amazing, get him in. So let me just have this right.
Yep.
You need a left winger, but your striker's got injured. So now you buy someone who's a 10 by trade. So if you're going to play him on the left instead of Martinelli or Trossard or Madueke, who's been playing out there, you're saying that you have an inverted left back in Miles Lewis-Skelly or Calafiori. That's the way that Arteta likes to play.
Flex, you're being too complex.
No. This is how he plays. This is what Arteta does. The left back inverts, right? And then Eze naturally wants to come inside. Eze's not if you want an out-and-out left winger, Eze's actually not your guy. He has to change the way. He wants to come inside. So is he going to come into Declan Rice's space? Is he going to come into Odegaard's space? Or is he going to drop the captain? Is he going to drop Odegaard, or just play him on the left and it's a different type of left winger? What we say? What does this look like?
Well, you're completely correct. But Mikel Arteta has said that he's going to have to alter his style of play to be more direct, and we saw glimpses on that on Sunday.
Then that makes sense
because of Victor Gyökeres, because now we have this number 9, and Gabriel Heinz has been working very closely with Miles Lewis-Skelly about him crossing the ball. So you might see more of an overlapping rather than the more inverted side. And when you've got Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ricardo Calafiori that can both do that, we are going to need a little bit of variation, which is why our right-hand side with Ben White and Julian Timber is so successful, because they're different profiles. And I feel like with Arsenal, and Arsenal fans will probably agree with this, going forward, we're a brilliant team and we've got a brilliant system. But if Arsenal want to win the league, I think Arsenal fans want to see a little bit more of unpredictability when we go forward. Because I was watching it on Sunday, and you were watching it, and you probably knew when Saka got the ball, he's going to come inside and pass it to Odegaard. Martinelli's going to do the same. You know that. It's very patient. It's very nice and build up. But sometimes you just need a drop of the shoulder. Odegaard can do that. We saw glimpses of it in the first half. But when Odegaard doesn't do it, who else? And I always feel like we just needed someone else to just share the burden. Now, if it's 65 minutes into a game, 70 minutes into a game, the Saturday's a poor example, but Leeds at home, very well drilled. I watched them on Monday, very energetic in midfield. If we're struggling to break them down, you've got the option then to take off Rice and Zubimendi and then play another 8, another 10 in midfield like an Ethan Nwaneri. And later down the line, if we've got the option of
you speak about Ethan Nwaneri, does this block him or Max Dowman? You've given Trossard a new contract. What happened? Does this mean the end of Martinelli? What happened?
No, I think
all these players are going to be happy?
I think Martinelli, for me, people who disagree with this, I think Martinelli has the traits, and I've always believed he can be a striker, and I think he's really good in central
Give him a chance to go there now.
I think you give him a chance to go in there.
Back up to Gyökeres.
Yep.
And you've got Marino.
And we've got Marino, who's an auxiliary forward. I think Trossard can still play through the middle. I still think Trossard can play on the left. Don't know how much of a role he's going to play, but then something about Trossard's injury record, he still managed to play a lot of games last season. So you have to reward that, and we're in a season where we don't want injuries. I don't think it's going to impact Ethan Nwaneri's development. This is a football club that are not just trying to win the Premier League and the Champions League.
You're not seriously trying Martinelli through the middle.
There's traits of a player that I think, not as a number 9.
Gyökeres is going to be the main man. It's not going to be a lot.
I'm talking in-game. I'm not talking starting. I'm just talking in-game. Very early days, but I've seen that there's a little relationship going on with Victor Gyökeres and Gabriel Martinelli. Gyökeres actually likes to pin himself out into the left, surprisingly, which has allowed Martinelli to have more central access. So it's all about trying to be unpredictable, trying to find a system.
So it's just about adding more weapons to the armoury then, and then Arteta can sort it out. It's basically better to have, what we do agree on, it's better to have someone like Eze in your team.
It's not a bad thing.
Work out where it's going on. But is it a concern, Rory? Like you said, this has only really happened as a knee-jerk reaction to Kai Havertz getting injured? Or is it that Arsenal fans just shouldn't care because they're probably going to get him?
No, I don't think Arsenal fans should care. I think it's a great signing for the club. I do think that the motivation for the signing is what I find weird.
Why are they in for him now?
Why now? Why not 2 hours ago?
Like, why have you gone and bought Madueke then?
Well, again, this is look, and it's all about the optics, right? Don't forget when we brought Madueke.
Do you know what I mean?
It's optics.
Yeah, but it has to be.
Optics.
Well, because now that already doesn't make sense. You've got Ethan Nwaneri as back up to Saka.
I'm not sure.
No?
I think it makes sense. I think Arsenal fans were a bit...
Madueke doesn't make sense.
When you read... Hold on. When you read things about Arsenal lacking an X factor in the Champions League and they want to have an unprecedented window and they want to be the kings of everything and win stuff, and then you read everything and then you hear that Noni Madueke is going to be your answer to take you over the line as a left winger when he's only played 8 games there last season, that's quite unfair on him. But then when you hear that he's a backup for Bukayo Saka, he can also play on the left, then you've got the likes of Eberechi Eze.
Who's saying that you want to be the kings of everything? You ain't won a trophy for
this
6 years.
This is what Mikel Arteta.
Nobody's saying you want to be the
Mikel
king of
Arteta.
everything.
Mikel Arteta says they're digging for goals. Digging for goals.
I'm just what the manager.
You got to work out how to win a cup before you worry about how to be the kings of every trophy. You ain't won a trophy for 6 years.
I'm literally just repeating what the manager said.
Right, but you can provide your own opinion and analysis on it. You don't just regurgitate what he said.
I have.
If he says he wants to be the kings of everything, and then you justify the Madueke signing off the back of what he said, it doesn't justify it, does it?
Why are you using the quote? I'm just saying about how we want to be the best.
No, but your opinion on Madueke is one of positivity. That's mental.
No, it's not.
You're the only Arsenal fan I've ever spoken to that doesn't go, yeah, this signing doesn't make sense.
No. There's a lot of Arsenal fans were saying, listen, we believe in the man. There's not no man.
I haven't spoken to any Arsenal fan that believes that the Madueke signing makes any sense. Especially now Eze's on his way.
Before this, otherwise we're not going to be able to break. This is what happens. A little bit of breaking transfer news on the Transfer Insiders, and it's all going off in the studio. We're going to hear a lot more about this, Luke. Trust me, we're not going to let you go anywhere because there's so much to get into here. This is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT, and on the other side, we're going to be talking about the very latest transfers and get much more on this with Ben Jacobs because we need him right now to explain what is going on.
From the Toffees to the Tractor Boys, the Eagles to the Seagulls, Gunners, Bees, Hammers and Magpies, Premier League teams have got a load of crazy nicknames. Ever wondered where they came from? Let's start with Everton. They're dubbed the Toffees, but why? Well, because when the club was formed, just down the road there were two local toffee shops. Ye Ancient Everton Toffee House and Mother Noblet's Toffee Shop were big fan favourites. Next, they say if you can't beat 'em, join 'em, and that's exactly what Ipswich Town did when it came to their nickname. The term Tractor Boys used to be chanted by their opponents as a way of putting the team down for their farming background. But during one game back in the late 90s, Ipswich were 1-0 up and they decided to flip the script. 1-0 to the Tractor Boys, they sang, and a new nickname was born. Let's head to Leicester, famous for more than just a red, well, orangey cheese and Jamie Vardy. Leicestershire is also the birthplace of fox hunting, hence the Foxes. Next up, turns out apples are not the only fruit that don't fall far from the tree. Bournemouth's nickname, the Cherries, comes from the fact the club's stadium was originally built right next to a bunch of cherry orchards. This next story actually involves two club nicknames. It started with Crystal Palace. They were having an absolute nightmare run back in the early 70s. They'd been relegated after a terrible spell, and manager Malcolm Allison decided enough was enough. He wanted a new nickname, something strong, fast and destined for success. Something exactly like an eagle. But there's more to this one. Brighton were in search of a nickname too, and Palace finally gave them what they needed. In a heated match between the two back in 1976, Palace fans began chanting, "Eagles, Eagles." And some clever Brighton fans came up with the perfect reply, "Seagulls, Seagulls." Not all club nicknames have a crazy story though. Take the Gunners. That just comes from the fact a group of munitions workers in the Royal Arsenal factory in Woolwich set up the club in 1886. On the flip side, some nicknames seem simple, but there's a bit more to them, like West Ham. The Hammers is actually nothing to do with the ham part of the name. It comes from the fact the club used to be called Thames Ironworks FC and was made up of workmen and shipbuilders. So next time the away end's chanting their crazy nickname, you'll now know exactly where it came from.
It's heating up on the Transfer Insiders with myself, Flex and Rory. We're going to be with you until 10 p.m. Already in the first hour, we've had the breaking news from the Athletic's David Ornstein that Arsenal are now looking to hijack the move for Eberechi Eze, and Tottenham will be left in the lurches. We actually probably want to hear from Tottenham fans during the show as well. You thought this was going to be your player. Do you care that Arsenal have swooped in with the injury to Kai Havertz and now they're going to take him out of your hands? But before we carry on talking about everything else during the show, it's time now to look at the latest football action with Ladbrokes.
The big preview on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. You build it, we give you a totally free bet this week and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
Oh, good evening to our transfer reporter, Ben Jacobs. Ben, I'm so glad you're here. This is perfect.
Good evening.
I'm always glad you're here, to be fair. But this is, the most perfect timing because sort of in the last hour or so, 45 minutes, half an hour, whatever you want to call it, there is this massive news that Arsenal are now looking to hijack a move for Eberechi Eze. What is the latest?
Yeah, and I think they're going to be successful as well. Remember, Arsenal are hijacking now, but they were the first club to the table back in the late part of June and early July. And that legwork on the player side, very important to persuading Eze to now wait for a club-to-club agreement, because I think, as we've said before on talkSPORT, Tottenham were confident in a one-horse race, but if Arsenal and Spurs both agree a package with Crystal Palace, Eze was always likely to pick Arsenal, and that remains my understanding. And some of the reason why is because he met directly with Andrea Berta and Mikel Arteta all the way back in July, before Spurs even indicated that they wanted the player. And at that point, it was actually Tottenham taking a back seat and focusing on Morgan Gibbs-White. So you can call it a hijack, but the legwork before 2 months ago now, very important in this story. So the Tottenham situation, as we broke yesterday, is they do have an agreement in principle with Crystal Palace, and they have agreed verbal terms with the player. But now Arsenal are hijacking. Terms are not going to be a problem with Eze. And the expectation is that Arsenal will bid, and it will be a similar number to Spurs' package, somewhere in the region of 60 million. And then, of course, Eze will have a straight choice between Spurs and Arsenal. And my understanding, as I've thought all summer, if this scenario was to arise, is that Eze is going to pick Arsenal, and Tottenham are now set dramatically to miss out.
Tottenham have fallen asleep in pole position, haven't they? Like, they needed to wrap this deal up early doors. They didn't. And now they're going to pay the price. This is Levy dithering, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And also the market intel all suggested that Arsenal wouldn't move because Eze's seen as a number 10 and Ethan Nwaneri signed a new deal and he can play there. But then Kai Havertz gets injured and Arsenal need to think about how can they get cover. And cover's often beneficial when you want two things. Somebody that's versatile, that can play in different roles until the person injured, Havertz in this scenario, comes back. So if they sign an out-and-out traditional number 9, when Havertz returns, that number 9 might suddenly be third in the pecking order. If you go for versatility and you've got lots of players, because Mikel Merino, remember, too, can be a makeshift number 9, then you fill the gap with lots of people contributing. Then when Havertz is back, you don't rock the boat in the number 9 position. And then add to the fact that Arsenal have always liked the idea of having another attacker and maybe somebody that can play both centrally and filter over to that left-hand side, because eventually either Gabriel Martinelli might be sold or Leandro Trossard, even though he's been rewarded with a new deal. It's not added length, it's only added money. So eventually he's going to depart because he's one of the older players. And suddenly, again, you don't rock the boat because you've got someone that can play in more than one position. And that's why I think Arsenal have now realised they've got to move for Eze. Regarding Spurs, I think had they been really aggressive last week before the first Premier League game of the season and before Havertz's injury was known, then yes, he might already be holding up a Tottenham shirt. But they left it until this week, and it does look like that's now backfired.
Spurs really have fumbled the bag there. It'd be interesting to see what Spurs fans do think about that, because they've been sort of waxing lyrical about the business that they've been doing, but it looks like this one's going to be out of their hands. Let's turn our attentions to Johan Wissa. Ben, what is the latest going on there? Because there's been a bid rejected today.
Yeah, we heard some reports that Tottenham were going to enter the race for Johan Wissa, and now we have to understand how the Eze situation might influence that. They're not really identical players, but they're both versatile across the front line. So if Tottenham miss out on Eze, do they now bid for Johan Wissa? I think we can remove the equation of Richarlison being factored into Tottenham's bid for Eze. My understanding is it's been verbally agreed as a straight cash deal. But Wissa's fascinating because he wants Newcastle. As we broke on talkSPORT earlier, £35 million, £5 million in add-ons, bid rejected. Now we have to see if Newcastle return to the table, because that's kind of at their top-end valuation when you consider Wissa's age and the fact he's only got 1 year left on his contract, although Brentford can extend by a year. And this is why I think the asking price is a whole lot higher, because they're treating it as if he's got 2 years left. So Newcastle thought they were in the box seat. Whether they bid again remains to be seen. But keep an eye on Spurs, because Tottenham were looking at Wissa 2 months ago. They chose to go for other targets. Thomas Frank obviously has worked with him before. It looks like they're going to miss out on Eze, and that leaves this 60 million gaping hole that was also a 60 million gaping hole for Morgan Gibbs-White, because that was the same number as the release clause. And guess what? Brentford are saying we want 60 million to sell. I don't think that Tottenham will go quite that high if they enter the race for Wissa, but I think 45 or 50 million might stand a chance. Let's see whether Tottenham end up bidding for Wissa.
Ben, you have some news on Axel Disasi. What is going on with him?
Yeah, Chelsea want an exit, and Bournemouth are the club, I'm told, that are now engaged in talks. I think Bournemouth would be prepared to buy if Chelsea's asking price drops, but they're also exploring some kind of loan, likely with an obligation. And this is another name that Chelsea want to resolve quickly, along with the likes of Raheem Sterling and Ben Chilwell. And I think Bournemouth and Chelsea have got a really good relationship, so I think this one could escalate in the coming days. Not so sure that Disasi will end up, like in January, having his future go all the way down to the wire when it looked like he was going to Spurs, then Villa, then Spurs again, and finally a loan spell to Villa. I think Chelsea want to sanction a deal for Disasi with permanence, same as Carney Chukwuemekwa. Juventus are the latest club there that have entered the race, and obviously we know Dortmund have bid before too. So Chelsea are focused on outgoings, and if they can get a few more out the door, then it lines them up to try and get Alejandro Garnacho and very possibly Xavi Simons over the line.
Manchester City's Manuel Akanji, he could be on the move. Where to?
Yeah, this one is a very interesting story, and Galatasaray are the club, and they're coming to Manchester, not the other way around. They've sent a delegation to hold talks with Manchester City, and they're really pushing. They've still got to agree terms with the player as well, but Galatasaray are prepared to offer a significant fee for Manuel Akanji, potentially as high as 50 million euros, in order to get a club-to-club agreement, and then it will all depend on the player, and we have no indication yet whether the player is is fully sold on the move. And Manchester City are obviously busy speaking to Turkish clubs a bit more generally, because we have this possibility that Ederson ends up going to Turkey as well. And that one might be quite interesting because, of course, if he ends up making the move, then you have a situation where Galatasaray get a double bit of business, Akanji and Ederson, and the knock-on effect of that might be that Gigi Donnarumma ends up joining Manchester City from Paris Saint-Germain. So I think part of the reason why Gala have sent an in-person delegation is not just because of Akanji, but to see if they can get a 2-for-1, and in doing so open the door for Donnarumma to join the blue half of Manchester.
Dare I say it, Ben? Any other news today? I haven't dared to ask you about Alexander Isak, if there's been any more developments from that. I know you spoke about Newcastle and Johan Vissa, but is there anything else that we should be keeping our eyes and ears peeled for?
With Chelsea, there's Renato Vega, who's set to join Villarreal. I understand the fee there is €30 million, or about £26 million, and there's a healthy sell-on clause as well. And then with Isak, I sense it's going to be a slow burner, simply because the game between Newcastle and Liverpool makes it quite difficult, I would imagine. I mean, if Liverpool want to be really bullish, you bid on the match day -1 and you see where you land. But I think if this was to get done, despite Newcastle's statement, and it opened the door a bit because it referred to the conditions of a sale have not been met. Whereas when Liverpool issued one of their own statements relating to Philippe Coutinho, they said categorically not for sale. So we were not told the door was shut. We were just told the financials or conditions of an Isak exit were not met, which probably gives a small percentage chance, even though some Newcastle sources are saying that the door is shut and Isak's going to be made to stay. I sense if there's going to be drama, if there's going to be a move, it might come after the game this weekend between Newcastle and Liverpool. And that's why at the moment things are still quiet, even after two bombshell statements, the first from Isak and then Newcastle's response at nearly midnight last night.
Ben, it really is going off this transfer window. Get yourself some rest, because I'm pretty sure from now to the end of the window, you are going to be absolutely at it. So make sure you get yourself a rest, because you're going to need it. Right, that's all. Thanks to Ladbrokes. Big thank you to Ben Jacobs. 18+, gambleaware.org.
The big preview on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. You build it, we give you a totally free bet this week and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. 18+, gambleaware.org.
You are listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. 18+, gambleaware.org. Next up, we're going to take your calls on Eze. What do you make of this news that Arsenal are hijacking this bid from Tottenham Hotspur? We want to hear from Spurs fans, Arsenal fans and Palace fans. Let us know how you feel about it. 03717 22 3344. You're listening to the Transfer Insiders. I promised you we will get to the call line. But before that, just a reminder of the news that Arsenal are set to hijack Tottenham's £60 million move for Eberechi Eze. talkSPORT understands. Sources have confirmed the Gunners have stepped up their interest in Eze after Kai Havertz suffered a knee injury, expected to rule him out for several weeks. And Spurs and Palace had been close to agreeing a deal for the England international, who is now expected to choose Arsenal. We'll take your calls in just a second. But let's get an update from the Champions League qualifier first between Celtic and Kairat with David Tanner.
And it's Celtic 0, Kairat Almaty 0 after 90 minutes. Here's a chance for the Kazakhstan side now. They're right in front of goal. There's a shot that is blocked. A shot by Jorginho, and it's well held by Kasper Schmeichel. I can tell you the noise in the stadium is unbelievable, as you'd expect on Champions League night. It was completely muted when Kairat Almaty got the ball in the back of the net. Their captain Alexander Martinovic scored a terrific with a terrific finish, but he was ruled offside. Celtic 0, Kairat 0.
Thank you, David Tanner. That is the very latest for the Champions League qualifier between Celtic and Kairat. We will keep you across that throughout the whole show. Right, let's get to the telephone line now, because we've got Connor, who's a Spurs fan, and he's angry, really angry at Daniel Levy. Tell us why, Connor.
Hello, boys. How are we doing?
We're all good, mate. We're all good. Hope you're good as well.
Well, I was. I was having a lovely evening.
You wasn't until 45 minutes ago.
I just can't believe it. I'm just not surprised, really. It's just the same old Tottenham and Daniel Levy. I'm someone that's always been very sort of on the fence about him. There's things I think he does well. There's things I think he doesn't do well. And this is one of the things he's horrible at, is this penny pinching. They've had 10 days, 2 weeks of a 3-1 at Eze. And now no one's surprised. No one's surprised, really.
And there's no way you can compete with Arsenal, is it? Is there? I mean, look, we know Eze supports Arsenal. There's a lot of footage of him when he was younger. I love Arsenal. That's my team. Henry's my idol. Is there any way that you can compete with Arsenal in this situation now? Offer more money? Offer a higher contract? Longer contract? Anything?
They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that, and we know they're not going to do that. We've seen it so many times. Willian did a medical at Spurs. He went to Chelsea. Dybala was a Spurs player pretty much. Couldn't agree image rights. It's the same story over and over and over again.
But you have to sort something out now, don't you, Connor? Something has to happen this summer. Like, you've already missed out on Morgan Gibbs-White, and in that circumstance, by the way, I think that you did everything you could do. It was just a circumstance that you couldn't get involved in. But you can't have a summer where you nearly sign Gibbs-White, miss out, then nearly sign Eze, miss out to Arsenal. Surely now, whatever the trump card is, whatever the ace up Daniel Levy's sleeve is, now's the time to play it.
You have to do something, because I think there's obviously growing pressure on him. There was lots of protests. I mean, I'm a season ticket holder at the ground. There's massive protests last season, and he got very, very lucky with the European win. But I just think this is going to make the club a massive laughing stock. I mean, Chelsea fans, or you're a Chelsea fan, you've mocked us for years about Willian going to Chelsea. I mean, what are Arsenal fans going to do? I mean, Levy has to figure something out. They have to do something.
I just can't believe that you didn't. Like, how have you not got this over the line? Arsenal weren't even in the race for the player.
Exactly.
You could have signed this up this afternoon.
That's what's angered me the most, is they've had a free run for about 2 weeks, but they're haggling over probably his wages or bonuses or something stupid like we've seen 100 million times before. But it's just so typical. It's typical Tottenham. We're never allowed nice things at this football club.
He's fuming. Thank you very much, Connor, mate. I hope you have enjoyed the rest of the evening, or you get some transfer links while we're still live, which we'll bring to you, of course. Or maybe you're in for another player. I can really feel the frustration in Connor's voice, to be honest with you, because, like you said, if they would have acted quicker, this deal could have been done. And actually, a penny for Thomas Frank's thoughts, because they're trying to build a new look squad. The business of Kudus looks fantastic. The business of Paulinho looks fantastic. It looked like they're trying to build some momentum.
Flex. When it looked like Eberechi Eze was going to become a Tottenham player, I called it the needle mover for Tottenham. I said that everything that they have done since they qualified for the Champions League, beating Manchester United in Bilbao, I felt like what you could do almost pre and post Bilbao is draw a line. Tottenham pre-Bilbao, they were Spursy, the ideology of Spursism. They were capable of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. And then they go to Europe. They plant their flag in Europe. They beat Manchester United in a European final. And everything that they've done since that moment, I was quite impressed by. They made the right decision in sacking Postecoglou. They made the brave decision in appointing Thomas Frank, the correct appointment.
They're changing. It's like they're starting to act like a big club and have some intent.
Started to act like a serious club.
Yeah.
And Eberechi Eze was almost the personification of that. Like, proper player.
Yeah.
Proper player. Winning an FA Cup for Crystal Palace, taking Crystal Palace to their first piece of silverware, doing the business for England when called upon in Germany last year. 27 years old, at the peak of his powers. And now they've fumbled this.
Yeah.
They fumbled it on the goal. It was a tap-in.
It was.
It was a tap-in.
An absolute tap-in. Straight back to the phone line. Steve, like Rory just said, this was a tap-in and you've managed to miss on the line. I've heard some Spurs fans talk about this could have been the sort of signing, sort of the most intentful signing. You know, when you got Bale, he was young, he was at Southampton, etc. When you've got other players like Berbatov, they weren't Premier League ready and proven. Like Eze, this was a massive moment missed.
Yeah, like what Connor said before, the last Spurs fan, he's literally same thing every single year. This ball just can't seem to get anything big over the line. We always seem to fall short, and I'm sick to death of it. It's just every single year. Gibbs White messed it up. Savinho messed it up. Eze, like I said, they've had 3 weeks on it. Arsenal have popped in an hour, boom, they've got it done. Like, what are Tottenham doing? It's just the same stuff every year. Like, I am sick and tired of it. And I'm gobsmacked more Spurs fans ain't up the lane protesting for this guy to get the boot. It's so frustrating every year. You follow this club, home, away. You just go through all them lows with Spurs, and they just give nothing back. When are they going to start acting like a big club?
Steve, I'm just gonna play devil's advocate, right? Don't shoot me down. I'm just gonna play devil's advocate for a second, right? They have gone and shown ambition and got Mohamed Kudus in, who, let's look at how he started. He looks absolutely brilliant. Thomas Frank looks like he's got you guys organised, and of course he needs new players, but he got a build, but he got a good manager there. They've been strong in that. The old Spurs would have just been like, oh my gosh, first trophy in 17 years, let's keep Ange. They didn't do that. You've got Paulinho, which is a great market opportunity, out of Bayern Munich, out of favour, but he's good. You did try all you could. Like Mr. Marinakis is, we know what he's about. You just couldn't. He was all but there. It was almost an odd and wingy moment. Isn't it a little bit harsh to suggest that everything else is still the same? Because you have showed a little bit more intent. Well, a lot more intent anyway to do the right thing, at least.
When was the last time we went out and bagged a player from a big club? Like a Man City, a Man United.
But is that because? But Steve, is that because you are Spurs though? Is that just because in the football pyramid, like no offence, because there's a Spurs.
But Spurs are building to that. They've got probably the best stadium, one of the best stadiums in the world. Fantastic training ground. They've got everything in place to be a big club. Our revenue streams are astronomical.
But you got to convince the players of this, though, Steve. It's still Spurs. Like, if you got a choice between Spurs,
you don't pay the big boy money. You don't win the big boy trophies.
You ain't got to convince a player to come to Tottenham. Pay them money. That's what you got to do. Pay money.
Yeah, but even if you pay the money, the sporting project at Tottenham is never going to entice the best players. Even if you're ready to pay the big wages, if you have a choice of playing for Arsenal or Tottenham, you're picking Arsenal every day of the week, aren't you?
Don't get me wrong. I think with Eze, like you said, he's an Arsenal fan. He's said it before. So yeah, if you've got the choice, you're going to go to Arsenal. It's just frustrating that we could have wrapped this deal up 2 weeks ago if we just launched the money down, because we've got it. Don't let anyone tell you we ain't. Tottenham are a rich club.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like when they finished third in this. Like when they finished third in a 2-horse race. They were in a 1-horse race to sign a player, and they haven't signed him.
You can hear. Thank you, Steve, for calling in, mate. I hope you have a good evening. They're absolutely raging, the Spurs fans, from absolute sort of despair to elation. Let's speak to Ricky, the Arsenal fan. Ricky, it looks like you guys are going to get Eberechi Eze, and you've just heard what the Spurs fans feel about that. How do you feel about it?
Oh, lads, I rang up on Friday and I was saying Arteta's got an IQ of a dishcloth. I couldn't believe it. Oh, do you know what? I'm absolutely buzzing. I've had a toothache all day. That toothache is gone.
It's gone.
It is gone.
You don't need a root canal anymore. Eze has cured it.
I don't. I tell you, this is a different. This wins Arsenal the league, or it gives them.
Oh, hold on. I know you're saying you got a toothache. It might be kicking back in now because I think how comes this is what this is? I thought Gyökeres was the one that does that. So now it's this.
To be honest with you, I don't really even rate Gyökeres. I think without Gyökeres, I think Eze is the missing piece.
Well, you ain't got Kai Havertz anymore. So you haven't got Kai Havertz for a little while. So you're saying you didn't even need to sign Gyökeres. So what? You would have been happy with Kai Havertz and Marino up front, and you just needed to sign Eze and you win the league.
Mate, I'm just over the moon that Tottenham.
It's not thinking.
I'm not thinking. I'm not thinking. I'm just absolutely.
Thing is, it doesn't really feel like
a laughing gas.
Arsenal weren't even that into it. Do you know what I mean? Like, Arsenal.
He's just happy he's done Spurs.
Arsenal ended up signing a player that it felt like they weren't really that up for, just to the detriment of Tottenham because they can.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what's happened. I mean, I didn't see it coming up. I was sort of saying, when it looked like Spurs have agreed, personal terms and looked like the deal was going to happen, I was sort of saying, where's Arsenal? But I'll be honest, my thing was I just wasn't sure how it would fit.
Can I just listen to these numbers, right?
Go on.
Gibbs White, the contract went wrong with Gibbs White 28 days ago. Yeah. James Maddison's injury was 17 days ago. Kai Havertz got injured 1 day ago. What club have acted? Big, isn't it? Big.
It's true.
They're like, Kai Havertz got injured yesterday.
Yeah.
And today, Arsenal have made a decision. They've made a decision. They've been ruthless and they've been efficient. Tottenham knew they weren't getting Gibbs White well over a month ago. They knew they weren't going to have James Maddison available 3 weeks ago. And they're dithering, discussing it, talking about potentially throwing Richarlison in the opposite direction. Just sign the player. Yeah. Just get the player into the club. And then nobody needs to ever worry.
It's like going only halfway. It's like they've started to make like big decisions to try and be ambitious. Right, let's go after him. We're going to build. We've got the Europa League. We're in the Champions League. Let's build. And then, like the Spurs callers have been saying, especially I think it was Steve, he just reminded that we're operating in the same way. And I tried to give him. I'm trying to give Spurs a little bit of positivity to say there are some things different, but still you get reminded, like you say, when players have to choose, they're choosing the bigger clubs over Spurs. This is the Transfer Insiders with myself, Flex, and Rory. We're going to be with you until 10 p.m. Next up, it's time to turn our attention to Nottingham Forest. It's all going off tonight on the Transfer Insiders. There's been breaking news all over the place. Calls flying in. People ecstatic that they're getting players. People not ecstatic and absolutely fuming that they're missing out on players. This is the Transfer Insider with myself, Flex, and Rory Jennings. We're going to be turning our attention to Nottingham Forest very, very shortly. But before we do that, we're going to head over to the Champions League qualifier between Celtic and Kairat for an update with David Tanner.
And it's Celtic 0, Kairat Almaty 0 with 35 minutes gone. But right now, bad news for Celtic because Alistair Johnston, their Canada international right back, is being stretchered off. He pulled up clearly his hamstring. The Celtic physio Tim Williamson had a look at it and said he's finished. And so Anthony Ralston comes on, the Scotland right back at the moment, comes on to replace him. So a real blow for Celtic. Alistair Johnston, key to Celtic's attacking intent in the wide areas. Celtic, by the way, have not had a real effort on goal so far, whereas the Kazakhstan side have had a couple of decent efforts. Celtic 0, Kairat Almaty 0.
Thank you, David. We'll keep you guys across that result, or sorry, as that game develops. We'll let you know the very latest there. Looked like it was supposed to be a really comfortable evening for Celtic, but, you know, best part of over half an hour gone and still no goals there, and the Kazakhstan side looking like they're doing okay. Right, we did say we're going to turn our attentions to Nottingham Forest, and that means we have to welcome in Forest fan and broadcaster and friend here of the show and talkSPORT, Mr. Max Scott. Max, I've seen you earlier on today, you know, walking through the office. You know, he was in when he wasn't even supposed to be in. That's how happy he is, right, with all these signings and how well Forest are doing. You know, you're in the Europa League as well. I mean, it's brilliant at the City Ground, right?
Oh, mate, look, I think the feeling is there's just so much excitement around the City Ground. You look at the players that we've brought in, particularly since that CAS ruling came down regarding the Europa League. And I think it demonstrates just sort of how much, I think the confusion that it put all clubs involved at, because a lot was clearly riding on it. And as soon as that judgment came down, Evangelos Marinakis has continued to back us and demonstrate that ambition. And the fact that we're hearing Douglas Luiz has agreed a deal to come to the club just demonstrates sort of the vision at the club, right? And if you look at the strength in depth now and the incomings that we've had this summer, we've got Amari Hutchinson from Ipswich, Dan Ndoye, who scored on his debut, Douglas Luiz, James McAtee. You think about the pedigree that he's got coming from Pep Guardiola's City, Igor Jesus as well, who our very own Tim Vickery called a modern-day Didier Drogba.
Oh, here we go.
I know that might be
Here we go.
I know that might be ambitious, but in terms of my South American football knowledge, I bow to his authority on that regard. So
I agree with you on that. He is a legend.
And then Arno Calimuendo from Rennes, who scored 17 goals last season. He's highly rated. He's been at PSG. So again, we're talking about pedigree. And all of these players coming in to join the likes of Chris Wood, who's still an absolute purist Barclaysman bagsman, 2 on the opening day of the season. Who on earth writ him off? I mean, absolute magic stuff from him. Morgan Gibbs-White, who, by the way, despite having become Forest's highest ever paid player, just demonstrated the determination, the doggedness, the leadership as captain, took the game by the scruff of the neck. You've got Elliot Anderson in there, who, you know, has to be in Thomas Tuchel's World Cup squad if that form continues. And so you look at just the squad that these players are coming to join. And I mean, I was hosting the show with Rory just a couple of weeks ago, and Rory was posing the question of whether, you know, this would be a really difficult season for Forest. And I think looking at the business now, we're in a brand new context here. And I think the ambition has to be that we qualify for European places again with the squad that we've got.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. That needs to certainly be the ambition from within. Max, can I ask you regarding Morgan Gibbs-White, just because there's parallels of what's going on at Newcastle United, you've seen a player nearly leave, ultimately be reintegrated into the squad. Has it left a bitter taste? Like, do you feel that Morgan Gibbs-White is still loved and adored amongst the Forest faithful? I remember there was a great tifo of Morgan Gibbs-White towards the end of last season. For example, do you think we see that again this year? Or when a player has flirted with leaving the club, does it leave a bitter aftertaste?
I was at the City Ground on Sunday, and I can tell you there was not one iota of bad feeling towards Morgan Gibbs-White. And I will tell you why. It's not just that he chose Nottingham Forest over Spurs. and trusted in the sort of ambition and the vision of the club to re-establish itself at the top of domestic and European football. And I know that might sound laughable considering the fact that 3 years ago Forest were at the bottom of the Championship, but so far the club has proved all of its doubters wrong. So it's not just about that. But if you compare Morgan Gibbs-White's conduct with Alexander Isak, Johan Visser, during that tumultuous period where there was talk of legal cases, there was concerns around tapping up, there was a medical booked. Not at any point did Morgan Gibbs-White refuse to come to training. He arrived at the training centre in West Bridgford on time, ready to train. He went to the pre-season tour. And can I just say, all of this is in the backdrop of some personal issues that he was facing. And he turned up and demonstrated the integrity. And I think that says a lot about Morgan Gibbs-White. And of course, that washes well with fans when you're not clamouring for a move, when you're not deleting pictures off social media, as if that makes any difference. Do me a favour, spare me. And we had none of that from Morgan Gibbs-White. And so that chimes well with Forest fans. Because, of course, we're not stupid. We understand the allure of Spurs. You look at great coach, great stadium in London, Champions League. Of course there is an allure to that. So we're not going to kid ourselves that Morgan Gibbs-White is somehow this career Nottingham Forest player and will never play anywhere else. But the fact that he's with us, there's a thankfulness that he's with us for another season. Yeah. And also, thank God we've got an owner that's not willing to bow down to the so-called Big Six and say, you know what, you're not going anywhere, son, because we've got dreams and we want to achieve them, and you're absolutely integral to it.
You definitely got that in the owner of Marinakis, that's for sure. I think everybody agrees with that. In terms of Nuno and how he kicks you on, last season sort of Forest by design, by default, was sort of sit back, counter teams, surrender possession. Was it a slight change in play on the weekend? Because it seemed like he was on the front foot, kind of took Brentford by surprise. Do you think that was just because it's Brentford, or do you think you'll have see a slight difference in approach? And you spoke about the aspirations. Can you afford to move away from stylistically what made you so difficult? Because actually teams started to maybe work you out towards the end of the season, which is why you probably fell short. Injection of new players, new ideas, new energy. Do we see something different from Nuno?
I think you've raised a really good point, and I think that maybe a concern about Forest wasn't the style, because the style got us to European football for the first time in 30 years, but I think there's definitely an acknowledgement from fans and within the club that what got us here isn't going to keep us here, and it's not necessarily going to get us where we want to be. And I think when it comes to our opposition, time will tell with Brentford, understandably having lost their manager, their best player and their second best player essentially on strike, and then appointing a set-piece coach. Understandably, they're in that conversation amongst pundits, amongst fans around whether they go to the bottom three. But what I can say is, from a Forest perspective on Sunday, there were clear signs of an evolution. There were clear signs that there is a different way of playing. I was pleasantly surprised after a completely dominant first half to see, for large parts of that first half, Murillo and Milenkovic 10 yards in Brentford's half.
Yeah, they were high.
And so, and that felt like, we were all getting nosebleeds, because you sort of thinking, hold on a minute, what's going to happen is, we're not used to this. And it was total domination in that first half. And of course, you can look at Brentford and say, well, that's easy to do. And time will tell. But to see the bravery and how they managed to control the game with such aplomb, that gives, I think, gives us Forest fans a lot of confidence that there's clearly been a concerted effort that we need to develop our style of play, which, by the way, suits Elliot Anderson and Morgan Gibbs-White down to a T. They can work in either system, and they've got the energy, the technique, and I think the vision to work in both systems. So I'm hoping that, particularly with the strength in depth that we're adding in the transfer window, that we'll continue to see that evolution of Nuno's style of play.
Max, we've got to turn our attention forward now. Crystal Palace naturally are going to take on Nottingham. Like, it's so
it's going to be brilliant.
Like the poetry and symmetry of the fixture computer. It seems to always throw up fixtures like this just when you most need it. It feels like there's a lot of antipathy between the two clubs. It feels like there's a lot of hostility between the two sets of fans. How much are you looking forward to this fixture, and how do you see it going? Fixture of the weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't wait. The story, it's all roads lead to Selhurst Park in terms of one of the big stories of the summer. I like the fact that it's been dubbed El Clasico, as in
Got a lot of football in it.
Look, what I would say is, there's clearly been, I think, animosity amongst fans. Understandably, football's tribal, and we back our clubs. I've been on the end of some absolute pelters from Crystal Palace fans for being of the opinion that Palace's administrative failings have nothing to do with Nottingham Forest, and that UEFA were aware of their breach of multi-club ownership rules well before a letter was sent from the club regarding asking for a speedy resolution. But of course, there's always different narratives. And Crystal Palace have, I think, quite successfully painted this narrative that their failings are all down to Nottingham Forest, which I find bizarre. But I certainly know from the club's perspective, in terms of Forest, there's no hard feelings. They were named as respondents in this case, so they sent a legal delegation there and were sort of dragged into it a little bit. And even Nuno has said, and I think quite rightly, that there's a lot of sympathy in the club for Crystal Palace fans who, through no fault of their own, were denied Europa League football. That doesn't take away the fact that there is this new sort of rivalry that nobody expected. So I expect to really taste the atmosphere at Selhurst Park. I've managed to get myself a ticket, so I can't wait to be there.
Be careful, Max.
Yeah, you be careful down there.
But I think this is what football's about, and Crystal Palace are an absolutely fantastic club, with a brilliant manager and some brilliant players. And I know that there's some doubt over Eze's future, but even if he's not playing, Jean-Philippe Mateta for me is an absolute grade A striker. We've spoken about this, Flex and Rory, on this very show about the return of the number 9. That's exciting. You got Mark Gahey, Glasner, top coach. It is going to be no walkover. It's an incredibly difficult fixture. You've seen what they did against Chelsea. You've seen what they did against City in the FA Cup final. Seen what they did in the Community Shield. I've been really refreshed to see Palace do that. So I've got no hard feelings towards the fans, but you just know it's going to be an absolute stellar atmosphere, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely brilliant. Max, thank you so much for coming on. I'm sure I'll catch up with you very, very soon. He's a very, very happy man, Max. He's a changed man. Look how happy he is. It's brilliant. I want to see my mate happy. And remember, you can keep across Crystal Palace versus Nottingham Forest on Game Day Live this Sunday afternoon at 1:30. You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes 18+, gambleaware.org. Next up, we'll turn our attention to the WSL and the Women's PFA Player of the Year winners from last night. This is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT, but I have to let you know that the NFL returns to Wembley in October as the LA Rams take on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we have a huge competition to win VIP tickets. That's right, we're giving you the chance to win 6 seats in a private box at Wembley Stadium with full hospitality plus $5,000 spending money, and here's how to win.
18 plus, UK excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win, text the word cash to 83338 and you're in the draw. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission or enter for free by calling 0330 880 338. All entries must be received by 25th August at 11 p.m. This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. See talksport.com for terms and conditions.
What a prize up for grabs there, NFL fans. We have got you covered. And if you've never even been to the NFL and you would love to, that is your chance to do so. Right, over to half-time in the Champions League qualifier at Celtic Park. Celtic versus Kairat with David Tanner. What's the latest?
And it's Celtic 0, Kairat Almaty 0 at the break. It's Brendan Rodgers' 800th game as a manager, and it's not going exactly as he would like it. Celtic have failed to test the Kazakhstan goalkeeper in the first half. They've lost right-back Alistair Johnston to a hamstring injury. He was stretchered off. And they've seen Callum McGregor and Kieran Tierney booked. Kairat Almaty actually had the ball in the net early on. Their captain Alexander Martinovic was up for a corner kick. The ball was cleared out. When it came back in, he was offside. He didn't know that, though. And he skillfully rounded Kasper Schmeichel and put the ball in the back of the net. The flag came to Celtic's rescue, rightly so. Jorginho, Portuguese striker, also had a shooting chance which just went past, and Ofri Arad, the Israeli, had an effort that went pretty close as well. So not going to plan, and really Celtic want to get it done before next week's return leg. It's an 8,000-mile round trip to Almaty in Kazakhstan. Celtic have been to Kazakhstan 3 times before and never won there, so they needed it done tonight in the second half. It's on a knife edge at the moment, though. Celtic 0, Kairat Almaty 0 at half-time.
Thank you very much, David Tanner. We will keep you right across that Champions League qualifier from Celtic Park to give you guys the very, very latest. Time to turn our attention now to the WSL transfer window and, of course, the PFA Women's Player of the Year Awards. We're going to welcome in Angelina Kelly, talkSPORT's women's football reporter. Angelina, it's been a busy night. It's been a busy night for Arsenal players in particular. Mariona Caldente picking up PFA Player of the Year in just her first season. And Olivia Smith, the first £1 million player in the women's game, she's picked up Young Player of the Year.
Yeah, a great night for Arsenal. You mentioned Olivia Smith there. I mean, she's an absolutely brilliant player. For context, you know, Arsenal signed her for £1 million, breaking the record, which was set by Chelsea in the January when they signed USA defender Naomi Girma for £900,000. So they just pipped it. But, you know, she's a young, exciting player. She's a record breaker, only turned professional in 2023. And Liverpool have signed, Arsenal signed her from Liverpool, and that was a club record fee of just over £200,000. And I think Liverpool always knew that Arsenal were going to come knocking. I mean, they've made a profit of almost £800,000, which they were in desperate need of because they need to do a lot of recruitment. But yeah, she's a really exciting player. I mean, it probably doesn't sound amazing when you say that she scored 7 times in 20 league starts, but no other player for Liverpool contributed more than 3 goals. So that kind of shows you she really was set apart from the rest. I think she's a great signing for Arsenal. Mariona Caldente, who you mentioned, she's one of the top runners for the Ballon d'Or, I think. She had a brilliant season for Arsenal. She was really key in their Champions League games. Obviously, they beat Barcelona to win the Champions League last season. She was amazing for Spain as well. So, yeah, both really well-deserving and, like you say, a great night for Arsenal.
And staying with Arsenal, Angelina, do you feel like they're well equipped to challenge Chelsea for the title this year? Do you think this is going to be a competitive season in the WSL?
You know what? In my opinion, I feel like it's always competitive. And I know people might think that sounds a bit strange because Chelsea have won the last 6 WSL titles. But apart from last season, Chelsea did run away with it. But apart from that, they've only won it by 1 or 2 points or on goal difference. It's always gone down to the wire. And I think had Arsenal started better last season, it would have been the same thing because, I mean, you've only got 12 teams in the WSL. Every game counts. I think Arsenal have signed well with Smith. They've got Chloe Kelly back in the fold, who's on fantastic fantastic form. They've got Alessia Russo, who is also a contender for the Ballon d'Or, Leah Williamson in defence. So all around the pitch, there are absolute superstars. And of course, Chelsea can match them. They've got a lot of great players like Kira Walsh, Hannah Hampton, Lauren James. But I think you look at Chelsea's team, Millie Bright obviously didn't feature for England. She's getting a little bit older. She's had her injuries. Sam Kerr, who's an absolute superstar in front of goal, but she's been out since January 2024. She's 31 now. Can she bounce back from this ACL injury that's kept her out for so long? Lauren James has had her injuries. Lucy Bronze, we've heard, was playing with a fractured leg at the Euro. She's 33 now. Doesn't mean that they aren't good, but I think that with the psychological aspects of wanting to win that Champions League trophy so badly, could they end up dipping in the WSL?
Yeah, last thing on Arsenal before I turn our attention to Barcelona. Michelle Adjumang, she's back to Brighton for a second stint on loan. What a Euros that young lady has had. Is that the right move for her, though? And what do you think the thinking of that is, to not stay at Arsenal and go to Brighton, back to Brighton on loan?
I think Arsenal see her as the future 100%, but she's only 19 years of age. And I mean, you look at players, I guess you look at players in the men's game like Lamine Yamal that are absolutely killing it at such a young age, but she's still got a lot to learn. And I think it's the right decision for her. Brighton finished 5th last season. They're still a competitive side. When you look at Arsenal, Alessia Russo, Chloe Kelly, Stina Blackstenius, Olivia Smith, amongst other forwards. So realistically, where was the game time going to come? And Arsenal have also sent their young Swedish forward Rosa Kafaji on loan to Brighton this season for games. So they obviously trust Brighton. They clearly have a good relationship, and they are good at developing young talent. So I think overall it's the right decision, but don't get me wrong, she will be lining up for Arsenal in the future.
Brilliant. Angelina, can we just change direction a touch here and just focus on what's been going on at Barcelona? Because I don't know enough about it, and I think that you might be able to shed some light. I'm fully aware that Barcelona have had major problems with regard to the men's team, registering players and things like that. But that's now permeating what's going on with the women's team. They've got a small squad. What is the latest on the situation at Barcelona?
So Barcelona's men's team have been in serious debt for a while now, and it's now affecting the women's team. So La Liga has a rule whereby the budgets for the women's and youth teams are counted alongside the men's in the balance for financial restriction. So we saw it in January, even with Dani Olmo, when they couldn't register him. The Times have revealed that Barcelona had breached UEFA's financial fair play rules for the second successive year. That was back in June. So the women's team are feeling the effect. They have just 17 first-team players that are registered for the new league. And, Barcelona's men's team, they can afford Marcus Rashford and Robert Lewandowski's extortionate wages. But as a result, the women's team, who make money, by the way, may have their squad absolutely gutted. For context, Barcelona's women's team won the treble last season, and fans saw that as a disappointing season because they didn't win the Champions League. They're used to winning the quadruple. They play in Champions League finals for fun almost. 14 players have left this summer, 12 of them permanently. You've got players like Jana Fernandez, who's won 15 trophies with the club. Her contract was terminated to free up salary space. 9 more players are out of contract next summer, including Alexia Putellas, who has won back-to-back Ballon d'Ors. So there is a massive concern for the future of the women's team. And it's just such a shame because this is like Pep Guardiola's Barcelona team 15 years ago. If you were to strike a comparison, they have Alexia Putellas, who I said has won the Ballon d'Or, Aitana Bonmati, who's also won 2 Ballon d'Ors. They're an exceptional team, and the fact that this team could be at risk is quite scary. But I think if you're looking at it from a WSL point of view, it opens up the Champions League to Arsenal and Chelsea, because if this does affect Barcelona on the pitch, they could have a better chance with the Champions League.
Absolutely good stuff there, Angelina, giving us the latest from the WSL and the women's game over there in Spain as well. And, of course, the PFA winners last night as well. Thank you very much, Angelina. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll see you on Inside Devils next week as well, so make sure you're there as well. You guys can check that out on talkSPORT's YouTube channel. Inside Devils, talking about the very latest goings-on at Old Trafford. Right, this is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. We'll turn our attention to Europe next, and European football expert Andy Brazel will give us the very latest transfer news.
Toffees to the tractor boys, the Eagles to the Seagulls, Gunners, Bees, Hammers and Magpies, Premier League teams have got a load of crazy nicknames. Ever wondered where they came from? Let's start with Everton. They're dubbed the Toffees, but why? Well, because when the club was formed, just down the road there were two local toffee shops. Ye Ancient Everton Toffee House and Mother Noblet's Toffee Shop were big fan favourites. Next, they say if you can't beat 'em, join 'em, and that's exactly what Ipswich Town did when it came to their nickname. The term Tractor Boys used to be chanted by their opponents as a way of putting the team down for their farming background. But during one game back in the late 90s, Ipswich were 1-0 up and they decided to flip the script. 1-0 to the Tractor Boys, they sang, and a new nickname was born. Let's head to Leicester, famous for more than just a red, well, orangey cheese and Jamie Vardy. Leicestershire is also the birthplace of fox hunting, hence the Foxes. Next up, turns out apples are not the only fruit that don't fall far from the tree. Bournemouth's nickname, the Cherries, comes from the fact the club's stadium was originally built right next to a bunch of cherry orchards. This next story actually involves two club nicknames. It started with Crystal Palace. They were having an absolute nightmare run back in the early 70s. They'd been relegated after a terrible spell and manager Malcolm Allison decided enough was enough. He wanted a new nickname, something strong, fast and destined for success. Something exactly like an eagle. But there's more to this one. Brighton were in search of a nickname too, and Palace finally gave them what they needed. In a heated match between the two back in 1976, Palace fans began chanting, "Eagles, Eagles." And some clever Brighton fans came up with the perfect reply, "Seagulls, Seagulls." Not all club nicknames have a crazy story though. Take the Gunners. That just comes from the fact a group of munitions workers in the Royal Arsenal factory in Woolwich set up the club in 1886. On the flip side, some nicknames seem simple, but there's a bit more to them. Like West Ham. The Hammers is actually nothing to do with the ham part of the name. It comes from the fact the club used to be called Thames Ironworks FC and was made up of workmen and shipbuilders. So next time the away end's chanting their crazy nickname, you'll now know exactly where it came from.
The Transfer Insiders right here on talkSPORT with myself, Flex, and Rory Jennings. We're going to be with you until 10 p.m. before we hand over to the sports bar. Jason Cundy and Jamie O'Hara will be with you guys to discuss further what has happened during this last hour, because it's all been going off. Eberechi Eze looked like he was on his way to Spurs. talkSPORT understands that Tottenham Hotspur have now officially pulled out of the race for Eberechi Eze. That's what we've learned in the last sort of hour or so. We've had calls on it. Loads of people have been getting involved, and like Will just said there, Twitter and X and social media is all going off. Spurs fans are absolutely fuming, and Arsenal fans are absolutely buzzing. They're delighted at the fact that they can get their hands on the player of the quality of Eberechi Eze. Rory, I mean, again, your thoughts on this as it's transpiring now. You know, Spurs have officially pulled out the race. They've waved the white handkerchief. They've waved the white towel, the white flag, sorry, to say we're out. We can't compete.
It's potentially a seminal day in the title race. I think that Eberechi Eze is such a good player. I think that he will elevate the options for Mikel Arteta. Where Arsenal struggled last season, the reason they didn't win the league wasn't because of how they got on against the likes of Liverpool and Man City. Yeah. It's how they got on against the teams that would be supposedly beatable opposition quite often at home. And I think that Eberechi Eze is the key to unlocking those situations.
How much does he improve them? I remember doing
Massively.
the show with you when
Absolutely
you said
massively.
about Saka, and you was like, 50% and then 0. I can't remember exactly what it was.
I think,
but how much does this
Eberechi Eze
quantify?
is a needle mover. It moves the point of Arsenal. It moves who they are. I think it makes them far more likely to win the league. Because at the moment, when you think about how do you nullify Arsenal, you basically nullify Saka and hope for the best thereafter, and you'll probably be all right.
Yeah.
You can't double up on Saka. You can't nullify Saka if you can't double up on him, and you won't be able to double up on him because you're going to have Eze over the other side and Martin Odegaard.
So is he playing on the left?
I think he's playing on the left at the moment, but this is the brilliance of Eberechi Eze and the brilliance of the signing. They sign a player like Eze, and he's capable of playing instead of or with Martin Odegaard. So if Martin Odegaard is the player that he was 2 years ago, Eberechi Eze has to play on the left. If Martin Odegaard is the player that he was at large chunks last year, Eberechi Eze is capable of displacing him, and there's very awkward conversations about. And then what should happen is, this is how the teams get better. You have a situation where Martin Odegaard's place is in jeopardy, so he has to elevate his performances, which means Eze, who wants to play at the number 10, will have to elevate his performances, and that way the tide should rise at Arsenal.
Yeah, absolute competition.
But on the other hand as well, by the way, everything that we've just said about Arsenal, I think it's a disastrous day for Tottenham Hotspur.
Awful as
normal services resumed.
Normal services have resumed. Right, we're going to turn our attention to Europe now and get a European roundup from our good friend Andy Brazel, European football expert. Andy, welcome into the show. It's been absolutely insane what's been happening here on this side of Europe. I'm sure you're aware, but let's talk about your side of Europe. The Lukaku injury. What does that mean for Napoli? And there's talks that they might go in for Rasmus Hojlund.
Yeah, Rory was talking about needle movers there. I mean, Napoli had their transfer business sorted really early to the satisfaction of Antonio Conte. I know, I didn't think it was possible either.
And they signed
De Bruyne early on, and then some really good players followed. Lorenzo Luca, the striker, Bukema, Noah Lang, some real strength in depth. So he felt like he could have a real crack at the Champions League. But of course, key to what's happened at Napoli and key to what happened at Inter a couple of years ago was the relationship between Conte and Lukaku. They get the best out of each other. And even though Lukaku is perhaps edging a little past his prime, I don't think it's unfair to say that, he's still a very important player to them. And then he got his thigh injury in the pre-season game with Olympiacos just over a week ago. And it's turned out to be a lot worse than what was thought. So he's avoiding surgery, but they're looking at 3-4 months out. So they're even considering leaving him off the list for the Champions League and for Serie A for the first bit of the season. And obviously they need someone to come in having spent quite a lot of money. Of course, they had the Kvaratskhelia cash burning a hole in the back pocket from January. But they're looking at something that's hopefully not too onerous or expensive. So they've been offered Artem Dovbyk from Roma, but that would be a sale. Hojlund's value has dropped so badly while he's been at Manchester United. He's a perfect target for a lot of Serie A clubs. Of course, Milan have been talking to him and his people for quite a long time. But now it feels like Napoli are ready to sweep in. They feel stylistically he'll be a good fit for them. Obviously, they know that Manchester United players who've lost their way have refound their way in Serie A before, particularly with the guy who Hojlund will be replacing if he's coming over. And this is what United need. You know, they're not going to sell him for anything near the value that they paid for him or the value that he's at now minus amortization. So basically, it's a little bit like some of the other players who've really lost their way at Manchester United in the past, like Jadon Sancho, like Nani at a certain point. You have to loan them to allow them to reinflate their value. And that's the case with Rasmus Hojlund.
Andy, can I just ask you a question on Hojlund? Since he's landed in the Premier League, I have never really seen even a semblance of the player that he is supposed to be. I haven't seen even a glimpse. You know, some players who can't get it going in the Premier League, you can still see the what he is supposed to be, the player that lurks within. Do you believe that he's capable of maybe re-energising himself and getting it going and being the main man for an Antonio Conte Napoli team?
Well, I hope so. It would be great to see that because, you know, it's funny, if we go back like to Euro 2021 and then World Cup 2022, you're thinking, what is the player that this really good Denmark side are missing? It's a goal scorer. And when he burst onto the international scene, he was someone who didn't just know where the back of the net was. He scored all types of goals. But, you know, I think there were two issues with him coming to Manchester United. Firstly, the fact that they were paying a lot of money for potential. And I know that's a thing, particularly in the transfer market now. You could argue United were ahead of their time in that sense, paying for potential rather than something that's proven quality. And the other thing is they've got a terrible record of developing players.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the concern that a lot of people have over Benjamin Šeško, who I think makes sense on so many levels. But United badly need it to work. And Šeško badly needs it to work as well. I mean, they've not only put faith in him, he's put faith in United to be the best place to develop him in a way that it hasn't worked for a lot of players and a lot of good players as well. We have to say that. We're not talking about scrubs. So I think Hojlund falls in that category. I guess the thing is, he's been so seemingly broken by the United experience. His form for Denmark has waned a little bit as well. So, look, I think he's in a good position in the sense that if he goes into Napoli, he's going into a winning culture where there are no excuses, we know with Antonio Conte, but he won't necessarily be asked to start every week. So it's not going to be all the pressure of a defending champion on his shoulders. I think Lorenzo Luca, who they signed, this 6'6" striker from Udinese, will lead the line for them. And then Hojlund can offer them something a little different and hopefully recover his best form.
Yeah, he needs to reignite himself. The pressure at Manchester United and how early he went there, exactly. It's just been a really, really tough time for him. Let's talk about Rabiot. Rabiot in the row punch-up in Marseille. I mean, it's staggering scenes. And Rabiot, as a United fan, is someone I know very well because every single year it seems like he's linked with a move to Manchester United with him and his mum as his agent. But what's the latest with that?
Well, we go back to Marseille's first game of the season. And I'm going to say first game of the season a lot of times in this because it's worth repeating. So they opened the Ligue 1 campaign on Friday night away at Rennes. They're full of themselves. They're feeling great because they had a really good first season under De Zerbi, qualify for the Champions League, go and make a splash in the transfer market this summer. They lose 1-0 to a team that's playing for 10 men for most of the game, right at the end. Players are not happy. Players have words with other players. Senior players maybe have a bit of a go at Jonathan Rowe, who I think is feeling a little bit under pressure anyway because Igor Paschal has come across from Feyenoord to take his place when he's fit. And so eventually, Rabiot's actually acting as the peacemaker initially, it appears, between Geronimo Rulli, the goalkeeper, and Rowe. And anyway, it quickly escalates. Yeah, insert your Will Ferrell meme here. And they start exchanging punches before you know it. And one of the younger players starts to have some sort of panic attack, which initially they think is like a heart attack or something like that. So it's all going off in the dressing room. And lots of the players, Mehdi Benatia, the sporting director, who's not backward in coming forward, the president, Pablo Longoria, they all said what happened between Rabiot and Rowe is something that they've never seen in a football dressing room before. Now, scraps happen in dressing rooms, in training. I think we know that. But the physicality of this, I think, quite shocked people. Now, I do have a little bit of cynicism about it because they've been trying to get rid of Rowe for a while, even though they had to sign him permanently from Norwich this summer. He's been speaking to Italian clubs, including Bologna. And then you look at Rabiot, who people will probably be unaware of this if they don't watch a lot of Italian or French football. Rabiot has been peerless over the last couple of seasons. He's been brilliant. Like the 2022 World Cup got him back on his level with France. And he's been absolutely fantastic for Juventus and Marseille. Juventus, incidentally, I think would probably be interested in getting him back. Milan are one of the other ones mentioned. But people loved him on and off the pitch. And then all of a sudden, he's out on his ear. And his entourage are a bit surprised by that. Now, Roberto De Zerbi says he doesn't really feel the investment's been there early season. So it seems De Zerbi, who's no stranger to volatility himself, has maybe decided he's out on Rabiot. And this is maybe just the excuse he's looking for to get rid of these guys, but the speed which they've reacted to it is something else. I think Rabiot most likely to go back to Italy, and maybe Jonathan Rowe joins him.
Andy, can I ask you your thoughts on what's going on with the Turkish Super League? They're looking at more and more Premier League players, aren't they? Ederson, Akanji. Do you feel like any of those moves will actually get over the line?
I feel like Ederson could be happening. And it's a funny one to me because I know he didn't have his best season last season. But if you're thinking of Pep Guardiola's ideal goalkeeper, it's him, isn't it? You know, someone who's a great shot stopper, brilliant off his line, tremendous pass through the ball long and short. I don't know. I can't really think of a goalkeeper in world football who would suit Manchester City more than him. I guess because of his contractual situation, he's got a year left. You could get very, very good wages at Galatasaray. I mean, you look at Victor Osimhen earning 15 million euros a year after tax. And the most he was likely to get from a Premier League club is about 4 or 5. So we're talking crazy figures here for the biggest names coming to the Turkish Super League now. So that's maybe a one. They had Fernando Muslera retire at the end of the season. They're Uruguayan legends, so they're looking for someone. Donnarumma, of course, is someone they've expressed interest in as well. So I think the other thing that we've got to bear in mind with Turkey, Rory, is the fact that the window's open until September 12th. So if you look at the Osimhen situation and how that decanted last season, last summer, he was someone who was really hanging out for a Premier League move. And then all of a sudden you're stuck. But hang on, what's this coming over the hill? It's the Turkish Super League with, tax-free salaries in most cases because the top rate of tax is so small there, with huge sponsorship from big business, and with more and more players going there. It's sort of an alternative to the Saudi Pro League because you can't earn quite as much as the Saudi Pro League there. But if you're going to one of these big teams who are prepared to invest in you because they're prepared to invest in their brand, you can still play in the Champions League and get paid a fortune.
Andy, top man, thank you for the insight. It's I think it's all going off everywhere in football at the moment, isn't it, really? There's drama in Europe on that side of it. There's drama here as well. So it's all going off. It really is. Thank you, Andy. Right, talkSPORT also understands that there is now an agreement in principle between Arsenal and Palace for around £60 million. Yes, £60 million, so a big fee, round about what really Tottenham were about to pay. So Arsenal have swooped in. It looks like they're progressing really well with that deal. More on that later on. You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes, 18+, gambleaware.org. You're listening to the Transfer Insiders right here with myself, Flex, and Rory Jennings. We're going to be with you until 10 p.m. We're going to hand over to the sports spa. I've seen Jason out in the corridor. He's excited. He's excited. Not after the 0-0 draw, but he's excited about his beloved Chelsea. I'm sure he is. And I can't wait to see what O'Hara has to say for his beloved Spurs getting absolutely done by Arsenal tonight, it seems. A quick reminder that talkSPORT understand that there is now an agreement in principle between Arsenal and Palace for around £60 million for Eberechi Eze. So if you've missed that, that is what has been going on. But right now, it's time for this. It's our feature, Rumour Has It, where me and Rory will be read out transfer rumours and we will decide whether we think it's a good move for the player and the club. Producer Connor joins us in the studio, the main man, to run through them. Right, this is exciting because this is actually my first Rumour Has It.
Is it?
I think it is, yeah.
And we're completely in the dark here. This is
exactly.
We don't know.
This is cold. We don't know what's coming.
Rory's done it before.
Oh no, I know, but I don't know the rumours.
No, we don't. But let's kick off with Newcastle, and they could potentially turn their attention to Wolves' Jorge Strand Larsen. We know that they need a striker. Would Strand Larsen be a good fit
for Newcastle
in the northeast?
What happened to Mbappe when the money came in? What's going on? What's Strand Larsen?
PSR,
what's happening here?
PSR.
I mean, they've gone for Mbappe. They get Sesko, Ekitike,
Liam Delap, João Pedro, Mark Gahey.
But they keep missing out
James
on
Trafford,
these, don't they?
And now Strand Larsen.
I think it was Gabby Bonlahor, wasn't he? It was like, they were trying to shop in M&S and then they realised now they've got to be shopping in Lidl. That's harsh on Strand Larsen. I think he's quite a good striker.
He actually is quite competent, actually. It just feels underwhelming, Connor. I'm not going to lie. He actually is a decent player. He's strong. He knows where the back of the net. He's actually done really well at Wolves, to be fair to him. Bless you, Rory. That's what he thinks about it.
On me. I'm sorry about that. It's like a stealthy sneeze.
That's how he feels about the rumour.
He's happy with it.
Come out of nowhere.
I don't know, man. I think listen.
Oh, come on, it's the most underwhelming.
It doesn't fill you. It doesn't fill you with great confidence. No. But if someone's going to be successful under Eddie Howe and stuff, like he does have a way. He does have a way.
Could work. Eddie Howe's a good manager.
It's underwhelming.
But when you think that they were linked with Gyökeres, they were linked with Sesko, they were linked with João Pedro, they were linked with Ekitike. This is very underwhelming. It's
the names that they've had before, isn't it?
Exactly.
You kind of go.
Yeah.
And then
also he's going to replace
and
he's going to replace Isak.
Yeah. It's a monumental downgrade.
Anyway, sticking with strikers, chaps.
Yeah.
Nicholas Jackson potentially could be on his way to Aston Villa. Now, would that work for both player and club?
It would certainly work for one of the clubs, which is Chelsea. I don't think it would work for the club that he'd be going to, which would be Aston Villa. Wasteful striker. Wasteful. Look, there's a world where Nicholas Jackson could do a job. There's certainly aspects of his game that are impressive. He's certainly got some skills to bring to a team, and there's some value to him. But what he is, and you have to accept this, he is possibly the most profligate striker in the Premier League. What, like sitter after sitter.
Yeah, offside a lot as well.
Yeah, don't know the rule. Like the rule, like it seems to pass him by that rule.
Offside lot.
Yeah, but no, I think he's I don't think he's a particularly good player. I don't rate him particularly highly, but he can do a job for a team. But what you have to accept is he is going to miss chances.
Yeah, I think as long as they accept what they're getting and understand it. Do you know what? Unai Emery has a really good track record of improving players.
He does.
And actually, if I look at Nicholas Jackson stylistically, he likes to run.
Yeah.
He likes to run, he's quick. And Villa like to play in transition, get the ball to the wings really quickly. Like if you look at how Watkins plays, he's got good movement. Yeah. So as a second option, I actually don't think it's as bad as people may think. If he's going to be the main guy, that's a different problem.
I was going to say, so you'd have Watkins over Jackson?
All day.
Yeah.
Not even a discussion. Yeah. But to go there and, they don't really have another striker, do they? So... Actually, I think that's all right. I think
it's probably his level as well.
Yeah,
like a team that are
they're in the Europa League,
get into the Champions League.
Yeah, I think that's a good move.
Yeah, and let's have a little finish off by all laughing at Spurs because obviously it looked like they were going to get Eberechi Eze. They're not going to get Eberechi Eze because of my team Arsenal, but now they could potentially turn their attention to Ademola Lookman and Johan Visser. What would we think about that?
I think it's absolutely terrible for Tottenham, and I've been very complimentary about everything that they've done. In fact,
because they've deserved it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I said sort of you could almost draw a line in the sand with what happened in Bilbao, pre-Bilbao and post-Bilbao Tottenham. Since they won that trophy in Spain, they've got everything right. Sacking Postecoglou, making ambitious signings. Palhinha was a good signing. They did their best to get Gibbs White over the line. Eze was a needle mover. And how they have fumbled this. It was a one-horse race. They were the only team trying to sign him. They weren't pressured. They weren't under threat. There was no bidding war. And somehow they have fumbled a tap-in. It was a tap-in. Tottenham were going to sign Eberechi Eze. It was in the bag. And how they have fumbled this, I don't know. This does not paint the contribution of their board, their ownership, anyone involved in getting this signing over the line in a positive colour at all.
It doesn't. And look, Spurs have actually tried to be ambitious to a certain extent. Like to the caller earlier, I sort of tried to give them a little bit of positivity. But in the end, they've just kind of been reminded of who they are. Like the Europa League for them, they're in the Champions League, but in the world of the football economics, players aren't like, oh my God, Spurs won the Europa League. I have to be there now. There's still a football hierarchy, isn't there? So I'm going to say, yeah, again, underwhelming, mate. Underwhelming. There you have it. Right, that was, I've enjoyed that, actually. I want to do some more of them. Yeah.
When we're back, we'll do some more.
Absolutely. Right, you are listening to Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes 18+, gambleaware.org.
When was the last time you saw someone score with a knuckleball free kick? We're going to take a look at why we're not seeing them anymore and explain a bit about how they work. The knuckleball peaked in the 2010s after that Ronaldo strike against Portsmouth in 2008 inspired academy players everywhere. Here's a young Mason Mount.
I tried to base my free kick on Ronaldo, hit the ball by the valve and it moves. So what do you do? Top corner.
Now, no ball is perfectly aerodynamic, so as it travels it creates ever-changing pockets of turbulent air, causing that unpredictable movement. Football's most
This is the Transfer Insiders with me, Flex, and Rory Jennings. Eberechi Eze could now be on his way to Arsenal. talkSPORT's Ben Jacobs will give us the latest on that. Alexander Isak, will he remain a Newcastle United player after the damning statement that he's put up on Instagram? We'll discuss Chelsea and Manchester United as well, as we feel there's a couple of positions needed to make them stronger. This is the Transfer Insiders. But before we get into it, let's get an update from the Champions League qualifier between Celtic and Kairat with David Tanner.
24 minutes gone, it's Celtic 0, Kairat Almaty 0, and at the moment the game is stopped because the Kazakhstan international goalkeeper Alexander Kurovsky is down injured. They've indicated that he is going off, but my goodness me, he's taking his time about it. I can tell you Celtic made a change at the start of the second half. They brought on Yang for Adamida, who'd been responsible, I think, for a very sluggish first half performance for Celtic. Yang immediately got some energy into the team, and he set up a terrific chance for James Forrest. The goalkeeper touched onto the post. Terrific effort, and Celtic's first effort on target in the game. 15 minutes to go. Celtic not looking like they're going to score a goal tonight, but hopefully they'll prove me wrong, because Celtic and Scottish football need it. Celtic 0, Kairat Almaty 0.
Thank you, David Tanner. He just said that Scottish football needs it. I mean, after what Club Brugge did to Rangers last night, and everybody thought this game would just be such a formality for Celtic, and it's still 0-0 in the last stages. We'll definitely keep you posted if there's any goals at Celtic Park. Right, first up, let's focus on the news that Arsenal are set to hijack Tottenham's £60 million move for Eberechi Eze. talkSPORT understands that talkSPORT's Ben Jacobs joined us to give us the latest on that Eze deal.
Yeah, and I think they're going to be successful as well. Remember, Arsenal are hijacking now, but they were the first club to the table back in the late part of June and early July. And that legwork on the player side, very important to persuading Eze to now wait for a club-to-club agreement, because I think, as we've said before on talkSPORT, Tottenham were confident in a one-horse race, but if Arsenal and Spurs both agree a package with Crystal Palace, Eze was always likely to pick Arsenal, and that remains my understanding. And some of the reason why is because he met directly with Andrea Berta and Mikel Arteta all the way back in July, before Spurs even indicated that they wanted the player. And at that point, it was actually Tottenham taking a back seat and focusing on Morgan Gibbs-White. So you can call it a hijack, but the legwork before 2 months ago now, very important in this story. So the Tottenham situation, as we broke yesterday, is they do have an agreement in principle with Crystal Palace, and they have agreed verbal terms with the player. But now Arsenal are hijacking. Terms are not going to be a problem with Eze. And the expectation is that Arsenal will bid, and it will be a similar number to Spurs' package, somewhere in the region of 60 million. And then, of course, Eze will have a straight choice between Spurs and Arsenal. And my understanding, as I've thought all summer, if this scenario was to arise, is that Eze is going to pick Arsenal, and Tottenham are now set dramatically to miss out.
And Rory, it's moved one further now as well. It's moved on because talkSPORT understands that Arsenal have now reached an agreement in principle with Crystal Palace to sign Eberechi Eze in a deal worth around £68 million. So it's going up. It's going up. Total package, Rory. Just how good of a signing is it?
I mean, it's a proper hijack, isn't it? It's like Arsenal have absolutely.
But then Ben Jacobs is saying kind of not, because they did do the legwork for a while, but then they left it. So it was almost like they didn't want it, did they?
But it was in the bag for Tottenham.
Yeah.
Tottenham were the only contender to sign Eberechi Eze. They were the only club that were going for him. There was no bidding war.
Stemming themselves.
Yeah. They just simply had to get it over the line. And Arsenal have reacted. They've reacted to a Kai Havertz injury. And you have to admire it, because what they've done is they've seen a chink in their armour. They've seen a problem, and they've identified that with Kai Havertz out of the team, they may not be able to score enough goals to win them the league title. They may not have the creativity, the ingenuity. So what they have done is they have operated rapidly, and they've gone out into the transfer market, and they have signed a best-in-class player. Like Eberechi Eze is a good enough signing.
Absolutely.
He's 27 years old, Premier League proven, a player that won Crystal Palace their first ever trophy, scoring a glorious goal at Wembley Stadium against Man City. He's a player that's like a coiled spring, ready to launch himself into a serious and sustained bid to win a league title. I don't think Arsenal will win the league, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if Eberechi Eze were to be the signing that takes Arsenal over the line.
Yeah, I think he's that good. I agree with everything you're saying. And also I think, like, this is the time for him. Like, if he would have had this move a couple of years earlier, you still wouldn't have argued with it. He's been that good for that long.
27 years old.
He's in his prime, sort of the same age they've got Gyökeres as well. It kind of feels like Eze's a bit younger than that, though. He's got a bit of a baby face. You don't really realise he's 27 and been around the block, but he has. And the amount of setbacks he's had in his career, the amount of rejections he's had, and how he's had to fight through the leagues to get where he is.
This makes him ready.
Exactly, that's what I mean. And he's so ready for this stage.
He's wise, he's intelligent.
Yeah.
If you listen to him speak, he's so articulate.
He's got everything. He's got everything.
Do you know what I saw like over the summer? You know, when you think about what some footballers are doing over the summer, like some footballers, I'm sure they're like gallivanting around Ibiza or whatever, swanning about one of those.
Getting married, really?
Do you know what I saw he did? Eberechi Eze, fascinating. He's very good at chess.
Yeah, he was playing with Richard Branson, wasn't he?
But he entered a tournament. He entered a chess tournament. He won it. He won 25 grand. Like, that's how he's spending his summer. That is the kind of player that you want in your camp, isn't
and
it?
Actually, when you look at him, listen, I've been, just because he's a fantastic player, but sometimes it's easy just to go, great, get him in. We do have to do a sort of tactical breakdown to just say, okay, what does that look like at Arsenal? But
I don't think you do in this circumstance.
Yeah, I think he's that good.
I think he just elevates everything at Arsenal. I think Eberechi Eze...
Worry about that after.
Seriously, in a non-biased way, let's answer this question for me, Flex.
Yeah.
In a totally non-biased way, who's your favourite player in the whole of the Premier League just to watch play football?
Yeah, he's one of them.
Yeah.
He's one of them. Cole Palmer's another one.
My second favourite. Like, I think Eberechi Eze in full flow...
Love watching him play,
He is one of the most glorious visions in football.
Aesthetically pleasing on the eye.
Mate, the way that he drops his shoulder, the way, you know, when he kind of cuts back really quickly in the penalty area and kind of nutmegs the defender, takes it one way, drops the shoulder...
He's like a street baller. A poetic street baller. And actually, Arsenal don't have enough ball carriers as well.
Why didn't Arsenal win the league last year? Because they didn't beat enough teams with low block. Like, they got on fine against Man City. They got on fine against Liverpool. They didn't get on fine against teams that they should be beating, who set up to not lose. Eberechi Eze unlocks those defences.
Yeah, he does. There's also going to have to be a period of adaptation, but you much rather have a player of Eze's quality in your stables than not. And I think it's something
he's better than 90% of the Arsenal players that are there already. Like, he comes in as a proven player. Like, he's obviously better than Martinelli. Obviously better than Trossard. In my opinion, better than Havertz. He's capable of rivaling Martin Odegaard, who is their club captain.
Arguably better than him as well.
Arguably
better than him. If you talk about effectiveness, who you rather have in the cup final, Eze or Odegaard.
I was in Germany last year, and he wasn't given anywhere near enough opportunity, and that's due to the cowardice of Gareth Southgate. But if Southgate had favoured him more and been brave enough to give him the keys to run that channel, he never let England down either.
Yeah.
It's a class act. It's a brilliant signing for Arsenal.
It's good. And he's one of football's good guys.
You have to give Arsenal a huge amount of credit for getting it over the line in the space of about 6 hours. And then you have to be really cynical about Tottenham's behaviour here. Like, Thomas Frank must be looking at his board going, what on earth is going on?
That's what I mean. It's a baptism of fire, though. Because it's like, for everyone involved in Spurs, obviously the fans, the new signings, and the manager, it's like, God, this is what
Why wasn't this over the line 3 days ago? Well, in fact, why wasn't this over the line? James Maddison's injury news broke 17 days ago. The Morgan Gibbs-White news broke 30 days ago. The Morgan Gibbs-White wasn't going to be a Tottenham player. So they've known that they needed replenishments in the middle. They've known that they needed to bring somebody in with a bit of creativity.
Complacent.
They've had 30 days before Arsenal were even in the race. They've had a 30-day head start and have lost.
This needs to be a massive lesson to Spurs, because they're already up against the fact that their name alone and the achievement they had last year isn't going to be enough all the time, or the money or lack of that they pay isn't going to be enough. So they need to start moving more diligently and more effectively when they can, and strike while the iron's hot. Right, let's talk about Alexander Isak, because the saga continues. He's obviously released a big statement in the wake of getting into the PFA Team of the Year. Use that as an opportunity to voice his frustrations as to what's been going on. His first time we've heard from him. I'm paraphrasing, but along the lines of the club's acting like this is new information. I told them my stance. I was told by the club that I'd get certain guarantees, and that hasn't happened. And now, once the trust is broken, etc., that it's very difficult for us to move on. And it's best. He actually tells them what's best for them in his statement, and says, again, I'm paraphrasing, but
it's best for everyone, doesn't it?
It's best for everyone that we all move on. Newcastle United comes straight back. Absolutely not. Again, paraphrasing. No senior figure here has told Alexander XYZ. We don't believe that the conditions of a summer sale have been met, and nor do they look like they're going to. And when he's finished throwing his toys out the pram, he's welcome back to the Newcastle United family.
But what I don't understand is everything that Alexander Isak has said in his statement. In fact, you don't even have to read the whole statement. Just the first sentence is enough. He says, when promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship can't continue. That's probably true. And Newcastle have now come out and had their say, and it all gets really unedifying. But I believe that whatever you think is the problem, whoever you think is to blame, once the trust and love is broken in a relationship, how on earth can you come back from it? Like, Alexander Isak almost now can't. It's impossible for him to lead the line.
I don't think it is. Do you know why? Because
you've never seen a situation like it.
I hear it, but if he does stay, he has to play, Roy. Like, there is no way in a World Cup year he's going to sit there and not playing football. He's lying. He's not going to do that. He can't do that. He can't afford to do that.
I don't understand.
And you need to keep the interest in him as well if you want the move next year or in January. You can't just not play. You can't.
But how can Newcastle realistically play him?
Because they ain't got anyone else. He's Alexander. If they don't get any, if that window slams shut on, I think it's September the 1st or 2nd, can't remember the exact day. When that window slams shut, if Alexander Isak is still a Newcastle United player, that means that there's a good chance they probably wouldn't have got a Vissel or some other people. He has to. Listen, it will be a fake apology and all that, but he has to. I even heard Anthony Gordon talking on the pitch at Villa Park afterwards about him. And sometimes we see it from the outsiders, oh my goodness, there's no way back. And players don't. There'll be players in that dressing room going, oh, it's a big move. I get why Alex is trying.
No, Anthony Gordon was actually quite sympathetic.
That's what I'm saying.
Anthony Gordon nearly got the move last year.
Exactly. So there's players in there that have been in that. I mean, Bruno Guimaraes took to Instagram at the same time to post a picture of him in his Newcastle United kit. Yeah. So maybe he might see it a bit differently. But there'll be players in there, I'm telling you, where they'll be like, listen, Alex, we don't really care. We've got Champions League games to play. Mate, we've got to play. We've got stuff to do.
The fans will see him as
the fans will do. They will see that until he scores against Sunderland.
Liverpool.
Or Liverpool. Well, I don't know. He ain't going to be fit to play for that because he ain't played any football. But when he starts, whenever he starts scoring goals, whoever they draw in this league phase, which we don't know yet, if they're playing Real Madrid at home and Isak scores the winner, they're not going to not celebrate.
Do you not think that history has taught us that football fans, I think people will say football fans are really fickle and they will celebrate about it. I think there's a truth in it. But I also think that Newcastle fans, with regard to this very particular issue, will be incredibly unforgiving to Isak.
Oh, listen, you will have to earn it back. Like overall, they'll still be like, mate, clear off at the end. But I think there will just be an acceptance. The love won't still be as it was. It's tarnished.
He'll never be able to be a legend.
No, that is severely tarnished. But football has a funny way of people just going, listen, it is what it is now. We pay you 120 grand a week, mate. You got 3 years left. You better play.
And you're the best striker in the league.
So if you start getting locked, but if they see him not running and you can see you don't want to be there, and then that's a different.
That's the problem. But I actually disagree with you, though, Flex.
You think he has to go?
I think this has gone so toxic.
Will Liverpool come? It's on Liverpool, by the way. When we've talked about them, are they going to come in with what Liverpool? Newcastle.
Liverpool will bid when they know that their bid will be accepted. Won't they? They need the encouragement.
So Newcastle United have to get a Strand Larsen, a Johan Viss. They have to get those first.
Until Newcastle signs someone,
and everyone keeps turning them down.
But this is why it's not there. This is why it's not Isak's fault.
It is. We're going to discuss Axel Disasi and what Chelsea need to improve, and Manchester United also. What are they lacking? This is the Transfer Insiders. Time now to turn our attention to Chelsea. talkSPORT's Ben Jacobs gave us an update on their defender Axel Disasi.
Yeah, Chelsea want an exit, and Bournemouth are the club, I'm told, that are now engaged in talks. I think Bournemouth would be prepared to buy if Chelsea's asking price drops, but they're also...
We did hear from Ben Jacobs there. He was sort of saying that, listen, Axel Disasi, he's on the menu. He's on the menu for an outgoing. And, you know, he had a loan spell at Aston Villa where he probably spent more time playing right back.
Yeah, I mean, and for Bournemouth, do you know what? Anything that Bournemouth touch, particularly with Iraola there, I feel like the Iraola himself just has the Midas touch. So whilst I think Axel Disasi is a fairly limited centre half, and certainly not good enough to play for Chelsea,
You can get something out of him.
I think that Iraola is one of the most brilliant managers in the Premier League. I think he is a true genius.
I mean, do you see the way Bournemouth... Well, I know you did, but you see the way Bournemouth performed against Liverpool. You know, 2-0 down. And actually, even before they conceded the first goal in like the 35th, 37th minute, something like that, they were excellent. They're excellent. They've lost so many players.
I still think they're excellent. I think that what he has done at that club is absolutely unbelievable. When you look at the players... You look at the destination that the players went to. They sold a player to Real Madrid. They sold a player to the European champions, Paris Saint-Germain. They sold a player to Arsenal, obviously, and they sold a player to Liverpool. That's their back line.
Incredible.
That's
and Semenyo had Kirkes on toast.
Mate, Semenyo, do you know what? Semenyo could quite easily be playing for Liverpool.
Yeah.
And he would not look out of place
or
there
somewhere like that. You know what I mean?
I think he's a top class player. And Axel Disasi, whilst I think he's fairly limited, I think once Iraola sprinkles the Iraola stardust on him, I think it'd be an excellent player.
There any way this window can close without Chelsea getting another centre-half? And a goalkeeper?
There is certainly a way that it can close without...
How bad is that if that were to happen?
No, it would be really bad news. Obviously, things seem to have gone massively wrong with Wesley Fofana. Levi Colwell's injury is a disaster, and we desperately need cover. But the kind of cover that we need is the kind of cover that we won't sign. What we need to do is
real quality.
We need to go and spend big money and
go and get Mark Gahey.
I'd love that. But it just Chelsea aren't now as a club. We aren't trying to bring in players that will immediately
tried and proven. Yeah,
we're trying to bring in players that will increase in value, and we're making a great fist of that. We're constantly selling players for a huge amount of money.
That's working.
We're making a lot of money.
Ridiculous amount of money.
But what you're not doing is creating a team that really can challenge for the Premier League title.
Yeah, and goalkeeper as well. Same thing.
I mean, he's the worst goalkeeper.
No, he's not.
No, he's the second worst. He's not even the worst goalkeeper in this room, actually, in terms of our club allegiances. No, I do think that he is. I do think that it's a problem position for us. But Robert Sanchez can have a good game, and this could almost be a problem. Like you know, when we think about Chelsea winning in New York City, you'll always think of what Cole Palmer did, but Robert Sanchez was integral to that victory.
Was.
And it's almost a negative.
But you know he's not going to have another game.
Exactly. He's had a game of his life, and he's going to get a contract off the back of it. We're not going to sign a keeper because of it.
Yeah. And even Petrovic went to Bournemouth, didn't he? He looks all right. He's decent. Let's look at turn our attention to Man United finally. For me, like I've said, I'm really pleased with the business that we've done. Brian Mbeumo, Mateus Cunha, and Benjamin Sesko. I do think they are needle movers. We've seen what they can offer.
I mean, Mbeumo
against
looks
Arsenal.
sensational.
Looks so good. And so did, as too did Mateus Cunha. Like, what I like about it, and it's kind of refreshing as a United fan. And listen, I'm not getting carried away, but I can just tell about the characteristics of the players. I've seen these players play in the league for years. Just that understanding that when they get the ball, they're not going to get bullied. They're not going to turn over the ball easy. There was a moment in the corner flag where Saliba was sort of fighting against Cunha, and it was just a real test of strength between two big, strong guys. It was, if that was Garnacho, probably would have just got flung out the way, or
he wouldn't be in there in the first place.
Exactly. So just a turn of pace, the way he burst through past Declan Rice, that doesn't normally happen. Gets his shot off. So I'm really pleased. But if we don't get a goalkeeper, if we don't get a number 6, I'm worried.
You need to sign players, of course you do.
Yeah.
But do you know? I think it's quite easy, and I say this with respect. But I feel like a valiant 1-0 defeat at home to Arsenal.
Yeah.
It's quite an easy result because you've lost, but you can lose well. You're good losers, effectively. You've played well and got beat. The test is going to come now when the pressure's on you to win games.
100%.
And it's going to be very interesting.
Next game, Fulham.
Yeah.
Burnley.
Yeah, there you
These
go.
types of games.
And I don't know. I mean, on some level, I feel like you beat Fulham quite easily and, Burmo link up.
Oh, right, you feel we do when it comes to Sunday, right, yeah.
But I also wouldn't be surprised if that game finishes 0-0.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you and I are having a conversation and the pressure's on and Ruben
But also,
Amorim
and it can change very quickly. But also, we do have to understand that the players that we've bought, they do need time to settle. I know you don't get a lot of time in football, but you have to understand that they're new. I don't mean settle in terms of learning the Premier League, because that's why we bought them, because they're accustomed to it. But in terms of linking up with Benjamin Sesko and how we can actually rely on them as a team to play with two players, we go, you can give them the ball in a
you're
situation.
correct or not. And I think being rational, you probably are correct.
Yeah.
But that's probably not what's going to happen. Simply because Ruben Amorim has been there for a while now and he's going to be judged by a very harsh yardstick. He's also in one of the biggest jobs in world football. Like, where does Manchester United rank in the pantheon of managerial jobs? Top 5 jobs?
Easy,
in
top
world
3.
football?
Yeah.
Top 5 jobs in world football, not even just club footballs. Like, I'm including
I think
the Brazil national managers.
Oh, right.
Like,
and that as
literally
well.
the top 5 football
Yeah.
jobs in the world.
In the world, yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to get time. You're in the most pressured job in the league, and ultimately you start losing to teams like Fulham.
It should actually be, considering how badly Man United finished last year and how poor Ruben Amorim was, and how poor the squad was. It should be easy to show enough to keep your job.
The only way is up.
Like if you just show like you're around 8th and that, and you're doing all right,
you'll be right. Don't lose to
be in the bottom
Tottenham in
half.
a European final for crying out loud, which is like a new low for Manchester United. You sort of redefined what the term Spursy means and adopted it yourself.
I know, but weirdly, I'm still positive because I've seen. Because I'm about to do it all over
chat on
again.
Monday.
You won't see me if we don't beat Fulham, mate. Honestly, I'm gonna be. I'm not gonna be a happy bunny.
No, there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees you will. Do you think there'll be any transfer activity for Manchester United before the window closes?
Has to be, man.
Goalkeeper
or number 6. It has to be. We've just shown our hand, right, that we were looking at a deal for Carlos Baleba. Do you know how expensive a deal is for Carlos Baleba? Okay, cool. We couldn't quite get there, but it's an intent. But at least 50, 60, 70 million pounds, you must have known it's going to...
Yeah.
So, okay, Man United are not good enough to be in a position of like, oh, we've got some money, but we don't know how to spend it. No.
Can I ask you just an old-fashioned way of looking at this? Why is Ruben Amorim not under pressure to coach and manage his way out of the situation?
He is.
No, but
not with the players that we have.
We're constantly talking about the signings.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that when you think about the Manchester United midfielders that are at the club, Kobbie Mainoo is somebody I'm thinking about. Manuel Ugarte is somebody I'm thinking about. Mason Mount could be redefined.
He loves Mason Mount. He uses him all the time.
Yeah, but he used him as false 9 the other day. Whereas
because we didn't have a striker.
He could again redefine him as a midfielder. Like if you don't get Baleba, last year we saw Arne Slot in a genius-like move redefine Ryan Gravenberch and coach his way out of the situation. Yeah. If Ruben Amorim doesn't get the opportunity to go into the transfer market,
he has to.
Suddenly, I don't know, Casemiro, Ugarte, Mount, one of those players, Kobbie Mainoo.
Step up, yeah. You're 100% right. He has to step up, and actually, he's doing that with the likes of Dorgu, with the likes of Lenny Yoro. De Ligt was very good. Ahmad's kicking on. Like there is some in there where you're going right. Okay, there's something there. Yeah, you've got to. That's your bag. That's why you got your UEFA license. We don't. That's why you're getting the big bucks, right?
Yeah.
And he said by his own admission, I don't really know. I feel a bit embarrassed. I don't really know why United fans should sort of believe in me. I feel embarrassed because he's never been in this position before.
He kind of talks his way out of the job, doesn't he? You know, when he was at Man United, he started talking about them being like the worst crop of players that the club have ever had. Like, hey, you're playing. What are you doing?
Yeah, but we don't want them anymore. Now all 5 remain here.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
it was right. Right, it's been an absolute pleasure. This has been the Transfer Insiders with myself, Flex, and Rory. Thank you for staying with us. Next up, it's the Sports Bar with Jamie O'Hara. He's going to be miserable because Spurs are a small club and can't attract top talent. And Jason Cundy's surely going to stick the boot in. 03717 223344. Let's hear from you.